to the Ska History Hour with your hosts, Jose Rojas
Hello.
and myself, Daryl Rubio, wherein the purpose of this channel is to spread awareness of ska music and its subgenres to the world. Our guest today is none other than Eric Molina, singer and saxophonist for Los Mal Hablados from Portland, Oregon.
Yay.
Eric, we
Hey, what's
appreciate
up?
the time you're taking to speak with us about sharing your stories and your music to the ska community. We see that your band started in 2022. Can you please tell us about your musical journey and your position in the band?
Yeah, so I started the band in Portland. A couple other members kind of started, were the first guys in the crew, and we started the band up like early 2022. We didn't really want to play any shows until we had rehearsed a bunch and had our set ready to go. We didn't want to like have half the songs ready, half the songs not, like we wanted to really come out strong. And in July of 2022, we played just a front porch at a house. That's how we got started. I remember it was so hot that our bass player went inside and like threw up after the set. It was just like it was dangerous how hot it was, and we were outside raging and playing music. Um, but that's kind of the beginnings. The crew, we've had a couple people come in and out, and it's just the reality of having gone from being a basement band to being a touring band. Touring requires a lot of other things, both, personally and just time wise, like
Mm.
financially, everything. It's more of a, um, it's got more requirements than just playing on Friday, Saturday night in your hometown. There's more things you have to sacrifice, especially if you're new to it. When you're a new person touring, it takes some time to get used to, or you just aren't willing to get used to it, and that's okay. Some people just aren't willing to do that. It's it's part of, I feel like every band's kind of history is letting the natural course kind of adapt, and it changes the sound along the way. So um, that's kind of where we've been going these days. And yeah, there's not really a lot of ska bands in Portland. There's been
Uh,
more sprouting up lately, which is pretty cool. And we've played with a handful of them, and like it's always nice seeing a ska show in Portland and Mal Hablados aren't on it, which means that there's more bands and there's more shows and there's people doing the thing. For a while, it was just us and a couple bands playing a couple times a year, but now I see a couple bands, really trying to put an effort in. It's really cool. Big ups to those guys. You got Friends with Salad, Star 69. You got a couple groups out here in Portland really pushing it, and we have the trad scene too. So like the Israelites are based out of Portland area. The Bandulus are also based out of here. I think they were originally from Texas. So as far as the ska and punk sides, we got a little bit of everything, but just a little bit, not a whole lot.
nice, nice. Now, I always like to ask the horn players if they played in the high school band. Did you play in the high school band?
I
Horn?
played in the middle school band.
Middle
Yeah,
school. Okay,
yeah.
nice.
I
Did you play
started.
marching or
Yeah,
anything like that?
I did the whole concert band, the wind ensemble, the marching band,
Which
the jazz bands, the
jazz?
everything that had to do with wind instruments. Like back in those days, I always thought choir was dumb, but it wasn't until I got to college where I was like, I should probably take a song or two or a class or two just to learn some stuff. I understood the value of understanding how to warm up your instrument and use your instrument, which is your voice. And I was never really interested in being a singer, but being someone who does any kind of vocals or any kind of vocal control is really important for horn playing.
Mm,
Because you have to be able to play what you sing and sing what you play. Um,
yeah.
that's a big part of horn playing. So yeah, I did the whole band kid thing for sure.
Nice, nice. Now, your name in English it translates to the shit talkers. Where'd it come from, man?
Yeah, the shit talkers. So, you got the logo behind you. It's their teeth, with like kind of dripping, snarling down.
Yeah.
Just a couple broken teeth. It's all beat up.
Oh, yeah.
Just yeah, exactly. And the inspiration, well, comes from two different places.
Mhm.
Um, during COVID, I went back to live with my parents, and I was doing some delivery driving stuff, and I got caught up messing with the wrong bikers. They chased me down, tried to do crazy shit,
Oh,
try to open my door. I tried to, make a police report and be like, hey, like these drunk dudes having a party during COVID chased me down and threatened me, and it just got brushed off. And
mm,
I did a little research and found out that the guy worked at the nuclear plant and he was drunk driving, which is why they couldn't do anything about it. So I just pressed and pressed and pressed. I found out the police chief was my neighbor. I pissed him off the wrong day and got arrested.
oh
And I had to
man.
get a lawyer, go to court over harassment charges about being mean to the police on the internet. They printed out like 40 plus pages of my Facebook going back to 2014 when I made that Facebook, because I had made another one. I think I lost the password or something. And like I had
Mm,
to remake it exactly in 2014, which is why I remember in the evidence they went all the way back to 2014, which means that they will literally scroll through your entire Facebook.
wow. You got to be
They
careful
have
out
the
there in
resource,
social media, huh?
yeah, they have the resources and the time, and if they have the willingness, they'll do it.
Hmm.
Oh man.
So that is why when it comes to social media, some people criticize me about being like, "Oh, you only talk about music," and it's just like, well, the things I want to talk about will get me flagged when I travel internationally. Like I didn't do that. I'm just trying
Mm,
to survive and play some saxophone. Like the everything is really complicated right now since all of our social media platforms are now not just for hanging out. It's different.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
you
Tabs.
yeah.
know,
Hmm.
it's
It
different
is.
now. So
It is different.
and and I feel like it kind of feeds people's I because going back to your questions, like that's how I was feeling in those times, because I would post about this stuff and no one would comment or like my stuff. And for a while, I thought that there was something wrong with what I was putting out, and I thought that
Mm.
people were ignoring me. But it's actually just the algorithm muting you so that they because it's stuff that people don't want to see.
They're silencing you, you're saying. They're silencing
So
people.
they're able to gut you.
Yeah.
The say if you posted 15 posts about selling t-shirts, the same would happen. So it's not just about politics, it's about literally anything. Like if you post about it 2 3 times, doesn't you don't get a lot of, the algorithm's not going to give you anything. But if you
Mm.
post some pictures of some kittens, you know and you get some reactions, you get some comments, that's just the way that the thing goes. I was just listening to another um, live stream like this with Hans Gruber, and they have a song called "Praise the Algorithm," where they literally just make fun of that. It's they have to, everyone adore the algorithm, or else they won't work for us.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh man.
in those
Yeah.
times, I learned a lot about that, and the way everything got resolved, they settled out of court. I moved to Portland to get away from the situation because it was
Mm-hmm.
unsafe for me to be around a police officer who feared his life around me. So I will no longer be around that guy ever again,
Yeah.
for my own safety. And I live in Portland now and tour as much as humanly possible. And the second part of where the name comes from is Los Mal Hablados. Mal Hablado is like what Latina mom would call their kid, like if they're cussing, you know. And for me, having grown up with Mexican parents here in the States, like I spoke Spanish at home but English at school, so I would talk all this shit with my friends. And then I go home, and my parents didn't want to hear it, so they would always mal hablado, hocicón.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that's when I don't know, when it hit, that was it.
Mm.
That's the name.
Okay.
And, and
That's a
yeah,
great name.
Yeah.
no, thank
No,
you.
no, no, real quick. Your parents. Where are your parents from? In
Yeah,
Mexico. What
my parents
part?
are from Chihuahua, Chihuahua. They're from
Chihuahua.
the
Chihuahua.
north. Yeah, that's that's why it's easier to explain that I'm Mexican in Mexico than here, because you tell Mexicans that, where are you from? Chihuahua. They're like,
Yeah.
yeah. There's
Today.
fucking
Today.
there's Güerito Mexicans in North. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like,
Yeah.
okay, we believe you. And then we talk
Yeah.
about literally anything else. But in America, people are like,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
we need to do some mathematics to figure this out. It's like, this is weird, but okay. So it's always been really interesting going to Mexico so often because I get treated like a different human, and it's
Right.
honestly really nice. So chances are I might be down there more often. So
It was cool to see your parents hanging out with you in Las Vegas.
yeah,
Was that like the
my
first time they got to to watch you play, or?
no, oh no. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
I've been inviting them to see me in the crustiest, stinkiest, nastiest places. This is finally me being like, "Hey, you'll like this. I
Oh yeah.
promise."
This is
Because
a
they would
legit show.
come, but they would go. They're not hanging out.
They got to see you play at a pool top in
Yeah, in Las
Vegas.
Vegas, they're
Yeah,
they're
that was
they're
That
kind
cool.
was
of tripping
awesome.
out.
That was
Yeah,
a great fucking show. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
they've
great
seen me
venue.
play a few different festivals, and yeah, it's a good. My tour list is a like vacation idea list for my parents because they're like, yeah, let's go, screw it, So they're always welcome. I think here in 2 weeks they're gonna go up to Victoria, Canada, to see me play the Victoria Ska Fest with the Resignators.
Yeah.
So that's next week now. I'm already
Yeah.
going back on tour. Um, but yeah, it's nice to have them around. I always tell people when people ask me about them being around, I just say, when I was younger, I was a little asshole. It's time to stop and be grateful for everything. So.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the releases that Los Mal Hablados has was you have a CD live at Bridge City Sessions in 2024 that Jose has there.
Hmm.
And the only song or that I know you have a song on the Latin Ska Roots and Basses Part 2 compilation. Is there any other releases that you guys have other than those?
No, currently on streaming and everything, it's just those are on print. We do have our Supernova Ska Festival set from last year up on YouTube. I am a big proponent in um, making sure we play the songs live a bunch of times before we record them. Because there's people in the scene that I see who they'll write a song, they'll record it, and then perform it 50 times, and now it's completely different and way better now.
Mm,
And do you record it again? Like what do you do now? So
Yeah.
I've seen that happen a lot of times. You know, um, like one band in particular is like whenever Straight Light Manifesto, plays their stuff from the first record live, it sounds way different.
mm.
It's the same song, but it's way different. But they have live stuff all over YouTube, and so I saw that there's something there with the live.
Yeah.
And Bridge City Sessions is a really cool place to record here in Portland. You can record a couple live takes of some songs and get some really good quality content, especially when you're a new band. That's what we did when we were, brand new. So,
Yeah. And now, can you also describe the sound of your band?
yeah. Um, I spent a lot of time in so many different, ska bands. I've always wanted to be doing some kind of ska core stuff. I've always liked LA ska core, Mexico City ska core, and I also, having listened to a lot of the bands that all kind of have a similar sound, and having and being around old skinheads, honestly, have talking about how like, oh, you can't ever recreate the new stuff, and like, what's the point of recording the tape in 2025? Like it's make something else, make something new, do something, and I always, when I'm at ska shows, I always see people just, it's nice that the old bands have, the legacy bands have their following, but it's also important to celebrate the evolution, because the bands themselves are the ones that are going to support the evolution, and that's why you see legacy bands touring with really really good young bands, because they believe in that,
Mm-hmm.
um, but all that being said, I wanted to mix, in my opinion, ska core in LA and in Mexico City was heavier than ska punk. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But in my opinion, having been to more hardcore shows before my first ska shows, I only went to hardcore shows.
Hmm.
And I knew how people moved and how the crowd moved at hardcore shows here in the States. So I said, what if we mix that kind of energy with some ska stuff and have these breakdowns, have these pits, have this energy, something that I wanted to make music that gave you adrenaline because that's what I was feeling when I was, writing some of these tunes and thinking up ideas for the project with the rest of the crew. So that's why sometimes we just call it Latin hardcore because we don't have it on the Birdseed session release, but three of the songs that we've been performing, um, they don't even have any ska in it. So like I feel like it's a responsibility for the bands to admit that like yeah, we play some ska, but then we also play this genre. Because on the other way around, people don't want to admit it. You have bands who, oh no, we're a pop band or we're a reggae band, but they really just play ska. Like they don't want to admit it. Like at Punk Rock Bowling, I saw this band called what are they called? Angel Dust. They're like this like hardcore band, and they did one song where all the verses had the upstroke, and then they had like a bunch of upstroke, and I was like, guys, this is a skacore song. Like I hate to break it to you, but they're all like tough guys covered in tattoos, and it's just like, hmm. So we call it Latin skacore or Latin hardcore, because we have the two types. I don't think it's fair
Mm,
to say it's skacore just because it has horns.
Mhm.
mm,
Um, that's the whole argument with Streetlight Manifesto, right? I think it's natural to talk about what people are or aren't just for the sake of defining it and explaining it, but
Mhm.
it doesn't matter. The songs are the songs.
Right.
Like take them or leave them. So
nice. Now, who decided to start this Latin ska band?
yeah, it was mainly me and
Mm,
a couple other members here in Portland that I found as I had moved over here. I always had that drive to have a ska band in the Pacific Northwest. Some of the other guys weren't really interested in ska. Some were quoted to say that they didn't even want to do ska anymore.
Mhm.
But I was like, hey, let's give this band a try. And yeah, we hit the ground running here in Portland. We got to open for a lot of great acts here in town. Lately, we've been just taking some time to work on some stuff for the band, just for the longevity's sake. And um, yeah, that was kind of the origin when I moved to Portland because I was living in Eastern Washington. There's not any scene there. Like Portland
really?
may not have a ska scene, but it has a scene, it has a great punk scene. It's got a great jazz scene. Like
Mm,
um for a town as small as it is, I feel like it's really welcoming to musicians, especially new musicians. I feel like people put a lot of value in new bands, and word
mm.
spreads fast. So it's a really healthy place to start a new band, in my opinion.
Oh,
So
that's
that's
cool.
kind of the beginnings, yeah.
Nice. And then how often do you guys practice, and what does that practice setup look like?
Yeah, for a long time we were practicing once a week,
Uh,
and for a couple hours, 2 3 hours, and we've moved from having a space that our drummer used to rent, um, uh, and then this house that I live in currently. I used to live out of town an hour, not 2 hours, but I used to live out of town about an hour, and I would have to drive up constantly for like 2 years. And I've been here at the house for about a year and change. And down here we have a basement with a little space to have amps and everything, so we're able to just have a band house, which is really nice.
oh, cool. That's good.
That is cool.
Yeah,
That's kind of like Flying Raccoon Suit,
yeah,
where they film their videos at that one person's house.
Yeah.
yeah. Except
Now,
for they were
Eric,
destroying that house, right, in the
yeah,
video.
yeah, in the video. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Eric, you play with many other bands.
yeah.
You play with Public Serpents, is that correct?
Unfortunately,
Mephistopheles, of course, we know. The
yeah.
Resignators and Distorted Times. Are there
Yep.
any others that I'm missing?
Um, like full time, like being in the band. Lately I've been playing with Chancha Barrinches
Hmm.
from Los
Oh,
Angeles.
Oh, so you're
Um,
gonna do in Long Beach. You're gonna do 3 sets, right?
no way, bro. Oh
Yes.
my God, bro.
Wow, dude.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, I was under the impression that it was the DIY scene. You gotta do it yourself. that really is why I play. You know, like if people want to criticize it, that's because I came from Eastern Washington. It's
Yeah.
it's when I hear people from LA and Mexico City have opinions, I'm like, dude, it would be so nice to have a big ass scene where everyone can have all these opinions, but we don't have anything. Like
You're
so
you're like
I'm happy.
you're like Chris from the Agrolites. He plays drums for like every LA ska band or traditional ska band, basically.
I feel like I met him on the road and then I added him on Facebook, and it was just a casual little, just meet. It was cool. We
Uh,
still chat every once in a while, and then like 2 weeks later, he's like, "I'm in aggro now." I'm like, "Oh,
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
sweet,"
that's funny. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to be just a session player in general, and I'm very lucky to be a session player in a genre that I actually really like because there's some musicians who play genres that they just don't like, and it's
Oh,
it's a really hard it's a really hard thing to dedicate so much time into a genre or a type of music that doesn't really speak to you. It's really nice to be
mhm.
able to do it
Mhm.
and to be able to have these experiences, but if it doesn't speak to you, it's really hard to come back from that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm very lucky to play the music that I like to jam out to, and I'd seen Streetlight Manifesto on stage, and I was still a pretty young, player. But I was like, I want to do that. Like literally, I want to do that. And I started playing in small bands, and it just snowballed over the years.
How
Awesome.
many countries have you actually played in then?
Um, Canada, obviously, U.S., Mexico, um, Switzerland, France, Germany, Italy,
Wow.
Slovenia, the UK, Spain, Luxembourg, Belgium.
You don't have any more fingers, Jose.
And then I'm adding Indonesia and Japan to the list later this year.
That is
Wow.
amazing, dude.
So I'm very
Double
excited.
digits right there, bro.
Yeah, it's it's playing a bunch of shows in Europe doesn't feel like you're playing that many shows like in that many countries just because the drive from Portland to Seattle is the drive through three countries.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
so I did the drive from Slovenia all the way to Switzerland myself. It was 9 hours straight.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, we drove from Slovenia, you cross into Austria, and then into Germany, and then into Switzerland.
And you're driving on the other side of the road, on the other side of the
No,
car,
it's actually
no?
that's actually like a misconception we have as Americans. Only the
Oh,
UK does it, and some
really?
countries in Asia.
Hmm.
So
Didn't
I
know that.
didn't drive in the UK. I drove in like the mainland Europe, and it was all on the right side. So I got lucky.
Yeah,
I don't
I
think I
probably
could do
did.
it, to be
I would have
honest.
probably got in a car accident if I did that.
Oh, totally, totally, for sure. Yeah.
How did you read the signs? Did you use MapQuest or something? MapQuest.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Google
Google
Maps.
Translate.
yeah, you just use your app, and then you learn
Yeah.
fast. In
Yeah.
Germany, Ausfahrt is exit, and
Okay.
obviously, I'm a little kid at heart. I always giggled every time I saw that, and
Yeah.
but you get used to it because like I feel like the road signs internationally, yeah, they're different, but they have the same information. So you have to just use common sense, which may be easier said than done. But yeah,
And
no,
kilometers.
it's just if and it was one of those things where I was driving, if I didn't know something and I saw a different car, I'd just be like, "You go ahead first, and I'll follow
Yeah.
you." Like I don't know what the rule is here, so
Follow
I'm
the
gonna follow
leader.
this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just
Yeah.
you spend that many hours on the road, you're staring at the road, all you're thinking about the road. So you start learning and you pick it up.
Yeah.
We didn't have any issues with it getting pulled over or anything. We only got pulled over on one of the public serpents tours because Squirt was on his phone checking Google Maps, and yeah, it was like just that simple.
Oh.
That was
Nothing,
great.
nothing crazy.
When we saw you at the Punk Rock Museum, we saw Public Serpents were there with Jesse Dills also. So was that like a coincidence that they were just passing through? Because I was talking to them in the bar
I think
area.
they played the punk rock bowling festival. I think the Friday.
Was that what it
Wow.
was?
I think it was like the day before that we played. Yeah,
Got it.
they were there. They did the whole
Yeah.
tour there. When I played my last show was in Frankfurt, and then I passed the torch on to Tim. Uh, Tim is out there playing tenor. He's recently been playing with Skate from the Zoo, so big ups to Tim for playing with the new band and doing some cool recordings, some cool things with them. So big ups to him. And I like to have we like to have a community among the horn players.
Mhm.
That people have different amount of experience on touring and all this different stuff, but like there's a type of camaraderie between the horn players and the ska scene for sure. And like if they're gonna tour with someone that you've toured with before, like you give each other information, good or bad, and like even if it's bad, it's not necessarily like meant with maliciousness. Like I tour with Bad Manners, and some of the advice that I got about him was just like he's a character. Like put on your seatbelt, and so I did, and it was a great tour. It was one of those things where you need to know what vibe you're walking into.
Mm.
What's going on in the house before you walk in. It's
Yeah.
it's really important, and it's a lot of musicians in the ska scene for sure help each other with that kind of stuff. So it's cool seeing Jesse and Tim. I think they were both playing on that tour. So
Now you also, and I'm not trying to cut in here, Jose,
You're fine,
but now
bro.
you also are in the Punk Rock Museum. You have a tie to the Punk Rock Museum that you posted from a sticker of your first band that's on the door in the Punk Rock Museum. Tell us about that.
yeah, the very 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 first like ska band I ever really played in was a band called Los Caipirinhos from Tri Cities, Washington. Shout out to those fools over there. Um, yeah, it was the way it happened is I was going to school for bassoon for classical music, and always wanted to do music, but I didn't really want to the whole classical thing of like getting a degree, getting a master's, getting all this stuff, and then like if you wanted to perform in an orchestra, you had to like wait for somebody to die, literally. Like that's kind of it's like not really a joke in the classical scene because some of these cats play principal chair until they're in their 80s and like literally they can't play anymore whether they're dead or not. Um I didn't think that was the best way to go about it. Like it didn't really it wasn't working for me. I was,
Mhm.
I went, I dropped out, was trying to figure shit out. I, you know, went back to school, finished the little associate's degree just to have something, you know. I mean, associate's degree is better than a music degree anyways. So, uh, I in those times I was living with my folks again for a couple of years and a guitar player that plays guitar in my dad's, the church that my parents go to, because Mexicans is very stereotypically Catholic. What's what it is. Um, and my dad's really into like trios, like boleros and that kind of music. So the whole vibe is crack open some wine, bust out the guitars, hang out. They don't really put on a DJ or loud music or anything. It's that kind of vibe. So that was always cool. But one of the guitarists from my dad's church came out and he was like, "Hey, I'm trying to start this ska band. We need horn players." And that kind of that spark is kind of what is that was 2014. So
Mm.
um I've been really pushing it since. um but yeah, those stickers I put down there on my first tour. I was touring with a band from San Francisco called Skank Bank, bunch of really young dudes. I was 25 and the leader who hired me was 17. Like everyone was super young. Like I was one of the older dudes at 25, and we did 7 weeks on the road, 36-ish shows. And yeah, I came back and I just remember just being addicted to the tour life, just being addicted to the traveling, being addicted to playing music to a new crowd every night, and how the band evolved both personally and on stage. Yeah, that tour is when I put that sticker on that door because Los Caipirinhos was the only band that I had before then.
Yeah.
So I put that sticker there, and it really, like, when I saw that door at the Punk Rock Museum, I was like, this is the Gilman door. Like, I instantly recognized
Yeah.
it. I was like, I've loaded into this building with holding this door a couple times. Not a lot of times, but like a couple times. And I immediately was like, I've definitely put stickers on this thing. And I scanned through it, and boom, right there on the bottom, Los Caipirinhos. You know, the sticker was kind of falling apart. So it's good that they took it out of the elements and it'll be preserved. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
you got to
the
go
full
back
story.
there and you got to go back there and put some Gorilla Glue on the edges and make sure it stays on
I think it adds character that way. I think
Yeah,
it's
it
nice.
does. But that's awesome to have that on there, man. And just to be surprised to see it there is so fun.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
expect that at all. I had no idea, you know. And then for them to also, you know, the one thing is they're like, oh, this store is this old. It's like, no, it's not. You know, like it's like there's like Omnigon stickers and like just stickers from like current bands. And I'm like,
Yeah.
eh, do what you want. I mean, I'm sure the door is that old, but the stickers are not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but no, it's there now, and I guess Gilman got a new door.
Yeah. One that you can't kick in anymore and squat in.
Oh, is that the story?
No, I don't know.
No,
But yeah.
The Gilman was always a really cool place. I feel like it's I you know from what I remember, it might be 100% accurate, but I remember it's I think it's volunteer ran. I feel like a lot of the people are like younger, like people in the scene. They have shows there all the time. And then they have that giant. Have you guys been in there? They have that giant kind of wall with all the list of band names.
No.
And then people who play there will like sign little spaces that have, like anywhere. So it's just if you like punk rock and you don't know what to listen to, try to find a screenshot of that on the internet. Thousands of bands. Thousands of bands that you've never heard of. So if you want to just mess around and find some new music, that's that picture alone. I'm sure you could look it up
Yeah.
online and find that chart, but like it is a lot of bands. And it's really inspiring to be in a room where that many bands have been through, that many people who are that passionate about music to do the goddamn thing
Hmm.
have all been in that room. So when you're in spaces like that, you feel a little less alone in the DIY scene. I only say that because I come from a small scene where there wasn't really a scene. Like I had to move to Portland, and it wasn't even that much bigger. But like at least there was something. There was something to work with here. And yeah, no, a lot of my background comes from not being around live music, and like my willingness to drive to Seattle or Portland 4 hours each way by myself to see a band. You
That
know,
sounds like Jose over here.
Yeah, I mean, if you care about it, I know people who drive like that to go see wrestling. So it's like if you're
Oh yeah.
into it, do it. You
Right.
know,
Do it.
do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
There's no rules, no one's stopping you.
Nope.
Everyone who's like it's too far can just stay home, and then they can
Yeah.
be
You can
mad
say,
when you show them pictures.
yeah, exactly. So how does a song gets created? What are the Monsters Model song? Does it start with the horn part first, or do you start with the lyrics, or yeah, and do you decide Spanish or English first? How do you
Um, the a lot of the songs on the first EP were written by me and the guitar player at the time. Just in his house, I would just sleep on his floor, and we would just be like, "Let's write a song or two." And "Guilty" and "Los Tenemos Rodeados" came out that way. "Give It Up" was something that the guitar player had worked on previously and had pieces, and the band kind of evolved it and wrote some of the additional horn parts and the lyrics. Um, the lyric kind of edits on that tune. And then Sismo was a tune that we wrote kind of all together in a basement, like everyone kind of putting their 2 cents in. So we've had a couple different variations of how the songs are written. Um, but it is, it's important to get all that stuff done correctly, or else you regret it. So we're trying to we're trying to get things all sorted up so we can move forward.
Nice,
You
nice.
can always get have dub versions done of your songs by Brian Wallace.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I'm sure he'd love to do something like that. That'd be pretty creative.
That would be cool. I have music that I put out during COVID of a tune that I wrote that was more of a reggae tune, and it has a couple dub versions. So if
Oh,
you look
cool.
up my name on Spotify, it's not something that I'm like pushing or touring or anything. It was just music that I had written and recorded during COVID, and I said, you know what, let's put it out. And that's when I kind of
Oh,
started recording more and more, just because it felt nice to finish a project and move on to the next thing. So
we'll gotta check that out.
yeah,
Now you've been on tour since April 20th, right? Going
yeah.
off to Chrome Fest with Memphis Coffees all the way to Punk Rock Bowling. Now you finally got some downtime. What did you do to unwind from all those travels? All those
Prepare for
days.
the next travels.
Learn,
There's
learn all
no
the
there's
horn
no
lines
break.
for the resignators and Meth and
Yeah, no, literally, like it's it's a big kind of thing that I'm like trying to work through right now is the that line between enjoyment and like paying your rent is starting to really blur.
Okay.
And I'm, lucky for me, I'm very, very grateful to have some great mentors in the scene. People who have been in the scene for a long time, who I can reach out and be like, "Hey, man, I need advice." Um, honestly, I'd like to thank some of those people because it's been so nice having that kind of connection. Dave Hilliard from the Slackers, thank you so much. Everyone in Memphis specifically. Greg Robinson, Mike Bitts, Andre. Wayne, everyone. I would name everyone individually. Wayne, Adam. They've all helped me so much.
Mhm.
I started touring in Mephistopheles just before uh, I started Los Mal Hablados. Like I did 3 tours with Meth, and that really inspired me. That like we can we can put some stuff together, but it also like inspired me because I realized how much I was missing. Obviously, I'm not complete yet, but I learned a lot in those few months. Started up Los Mal Hablados, and like it has been challenging to like leave on tour and come back and miss a couple rehearsals, but the guys would, they'd make it work. But yeah, those guys, lately, Choris from Ocho Calacas has been a really good friend and helped me out with some things. And, um, shout out to Deals from Out of Control Army, in Mexico City. The game is played differently. He's taught me a lot. He's been really nice to me and been very just I don't know, just helpful and just genuine with me. And I want to thank those people for being like that with me, just because it's not every day that you meet people like that. So it's been nice to work with musicians who know a lot about the scene, who have a lot more experience in the scene with me, and they can teach me along the way. Just because I very much like this music. I admit what I know. Like coming from a jazz scene, like any sax player who thinks they're good, just listen to some John Coltrane and you'll sit down very quickly. That's the downside to coming from the classical and jazz world, is that you have, the self confidence, all that kind of stuff is different. I feel like some punk bands are just like oozing that self confidence, but it's just like there's so much more music out there, like do your thing, but like just know what kind of fish you are and what kind of body of water.
Yep.
It's and
Yeah.
I think that's natural. I think that's how we grow. It's how we
Mhm.
grow as musicians, to be like, oh, I have things to do. I have things to learn. I fucked up there. Like because in my opinion, the people who are satisfied with where they're at are the ones that aren't really going to grow ever again.
Mhm.
They're done. They've chosen to be done. So
Mhm.
that's why I like to tour with different bands and challenge myself. And people are like, "Hey, can you learn the song this fast and this and that?" Like because the comfortable thing would be like, "No, I'm not going to go. I'm going to get a regular job. I'm bilingual. I could do great and get a normal job and just hang out in Portland." Or I could really gamble and do the thing, because honestly, playing music in the DIY scene is kind of like gambling. Like you're putting in a couple bucks into the machine every so often, hoping that one day,
Hmm.
and obviously as you get better, at like just interpersonal skills, your instrument, just better on experience on stage, better performance, it helps, but it's the whole thing of like if it was easy, everyone would do it. It's all those cliches are unfortunately real. The whole like people won't come see you until you're playing these festivals internationally, and like a lot of people have climbed out from under rocks, and they're like, "Oh wow, you're playing music. When do you play your hometown again?" I'm like, I haven't lived there in a long time. So it's a lot of those things are true, and it's interesting, growing through that and learning along the way. It's
One
been
thing I
crazy.
love about the scene too is that everyone helps each other and everyone's so supportive of each other. And it's all for the benefit of the music, just to, to make it more known and just have fun. And you touring and living your life, it's, is awesome because normally you never have those experiences, which
Yeah,
is awesome.
but also there's some real, the realness and like with the 99.9% being great supportive people, the real lessons are in that point oh 0.01, and I feel like it's important to to identify that point oh 0.01 and be like, what do we need to do here?
Yeah.
And I've been growing a lot from that angle,
Mhm.
trying to see just how to maneuver in this this music world that I never really thought I would be in. Um, and just like I said, what kind of fish are you and what kind of body of water, trying to consider that,
Yeah.
and I feel like American ska bands have a different perspective of what the ska scene is than people in the Latin American ska scene.
Hmm.
Like the Interrupters playing punk rock bowling in these major festivals in the U.S. is one thing, but when they go to Mexico or where they go to Europe, I don't know how they do in Mexico, but I know in Europe they do very, very well, and those festivals are huge. And like, what would you guys name the peak of American ska? Like when it comes to like, like I don't know, like No Doubt or Boss Tones or you know what I mean, like those tiers of bands. Think of those and compare them to Inspector. Compare them
Hmm.
to Panteon Rococó. Compare them to Scape. Like
Yeah.
these are monolith bands that make legacy bands in the United States look like
Yeah.
local bands, and
Los
those
Fabulosos.
artists look, like it just keeps going. There's
Yeah.
the music world is big, and that's a deep deep ocean. So that's what I really like about the music scene and ska scene specifically in Mexico is that it's if people have an issue about money, it's about actual money instead of like punks in the US being like, he shorted me $50. It's like, dude, $50 isn't worth fighting over, like $50 is just the cost of realizing that this guy's sketchy. Move on, but in Mexico when they're like, no, these are flights, these are visas, these are hotel, you know what I mean? Like it's different. It's different. I'm speaking specifically of the ska scene. I can't really speak for other scenes. I'm not really that deep into them, but that's just been my observation in playing in a lot of ska bands is that um, we don't have the full picture in the United States of ska bands, in my opinion, because Latin America's it's different because the equation is different down there. Um, but if you're talking about more people seeing you, it's Mexico. But I bet you still can do okay financially in the States with less people just because you can charge enough for a ticket in the United States for what someone makes in an entire week in Mexico. Minimum wage in Mexico is like it's rough. I remember seeing signs that said, 4,000 pesos a week, which is $200 a week, 40 hours of work. So like a festival ticket for $200 is a week's worth of work for someone in Mexico.
Yeah.
So like the ticket sales are super low, beer sales are or prices are really high. So that's kind of how they figure it out. They just get people super drunk. But you go to those shows and everyone's dancing. Like people have their phones out, but there's also like a bigger percentage of people just ripping their shirts off or in the pit or just not on their phones. I feel like the U.S. just I think that can be a little bit broad. You know, the whole music scene in the U.S. has a lot of that in the scene is just people recording, people trying to film content and all this stuff. And it's great, you know. It's good because people are making TikToks about bands and giving them exposure. It's a different way to support the bands. I'm not
That's
saying
fair.
it's bad. I'm just saying it's different. You know, it's
Yeah.
different than going with the sole purpose of getting blacked out and
Yeah.
moshing. You know, like it's
Yeah.
it's. Then there's still those people in the States. I love to see those guys. When people are like,
Oh
"Oh, he's
yeah.
drunk," I'm like, "Great." I think this is good. He shouldn't be sober at 1 a.m. at a dive bar. You know, like the dude has been moshing for 3 hours. Let him party. You know, like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
good.
I experienced something like that when I was watching you guys set at Las Vegas at punk rock bowling. This one drunk guy was just like on me and stuff, and like I'm like, dude, just calm down, bro, just calm down. But it looked like he wanted to fight at one point, but I'm like, whatever.
Yeah,
But yeah,
just
you
let
gotta
him be
ignore him.
happy.
Yeah,
Let him go do his thing over there. He'll be fine, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But that's what I like about the Latin American scene is it's a lot of that and just the way kind of government works too. Like you can tell that like here people are like, oh, health codes and this and that and city ordinances and man, 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 man. In Mexico, they're like, fuck it, let's party, you
Yeah.
know. And they have a level of that for sure, but it is definitely way more lenient than it is here, you know. And even just throwing like a house show, you know, like here you have to battle the noise and all the stuff, you know. Out there, if you have space, like it's
Nobody
fine.
cares. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that just the Monsters of Ska Fest in December that you guys played, or was there other shows you played out there?
Yeah, we were gonna play the day before. Oh, the bill was so good.
I know, I saw that.
It was like South Central Skankers, Maramosca, Mal Hablados, Chencha, not in this order.
Desorden,
No,
El Gran
no, it was a
Silencio.
whole different show that got
King
canceled.
Chango from Argentina, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
King Chango was there.
it was a whole different lineup. Let me look this one up because it was like every band on this lineup
Yeah,
is,
Staya was there also.
yeah, they were great.
Tijuana
Uh,
No. I was
Mhm.
oh, I've only been able to see Tijuana No backing up King Hammond. Other than that, I've never seen Tijuana No, but also
I got it right here. I got it right here. But it
yeah,
was called Ska Core Attack, and it was going to be Mal Hablados, then the Rude Tone Bandits. You know, shout out to those homies in California.
Mhm. Right, right.
Maramosca, Chencha
Town
Berrinches,
bandits.
La Pobresca, and then Sectacore.
but that's the
So
one that didn't happen.
that one just fell through. That
Oh,
like I'm
Oh,
pretty sure they wanted to add another show since all the bands were going to be down there. I think it just didn't work out, and at least Malablaos just did the festival. I'm not sure if the other bands did other shows, but we
yeah,
just
that
did the festival.
festival looks fucking stacked.
Yeah, it was a really good festival. It was behind the scenes was like talking about how the difference between Mexico and the US behind the scenes night and day, dude. Night and day. Like if you go backstage at Supernova, everyone's happy, hanging out, chatting, because all the business stuff is done.
Mhm.
You know, if a band goes over, it's like 5, 10 minutes. Like, unless, you know, man, caddies, unless, unless you're one of the bands that wants to go over a little extra, no one's mad. It's whatever, dude. We're gonna play. You know, like everyone's gonna play. It's fine. But in Mexico, not everyone gets to play. If bands go over, they start cutting times. They start
Oh
turning your
oh,
mics
damn.
off. They
oh,
start
dang.
they start turning the lights on in the venue and being like, "It's 11 p.m. Everyone's going home." Like you could be on stage finishing a song, and they're like, "Oh, your cable for your microphone? You don't need it." And that does not happen in the States. You know, like they'll get mad and then maybe charge you something after the fact or something, but they won't literally like flip the switch at like at a bigger event, you know.
Uh,
But then there's the side of the conversation of like bands in the U.S. try to, you know. strive for more professionalism. Where some bands in in Mexico were just local bands that would just play locally, and they're just maybe they just got added on to I don't know, whatever reason. They're just like, where the beer at, and it's not all of them, but I just when I'm comparing the bands that I saw at Supernova versus Monsters, it was just a different energy, and the people are different. I mean, when Mal Hablados were first on the small stage out by because there was two main stages alternating, and then there was like the food area, and they had a little stage there, and we were the first ones on there. All the bands played both stages. I think they cycled. A lot of the American bands played both days just to really make the most out of their trip. Some of the bands did different sets, but when we were playing the small stage, there was someone like on there's like the big metal poles, right? That hold up the racks that hold all the stuff. There's a guy up there tying the tarp down with zip ties and clipping them while I'm on stage singing. I'm just looking up at this dude like, oh, okay, and I don't remember to what extent, but someone had told me later that the stage kind of like fell apart a little bit, and like it was just.
Oh wow.
And like when we loaded in, the guys building the stage were like, "Dude, we're so sorry. We just found out about this."
Mhm.
They were being really cool. The sound guys were being cool. Um, then the day of that show, there was a slot at 1 p.m. and a slot at 5 p.m. where Chencha Barrincha was going to play at 5 and 1 p.m. was going to be La Monkey Band. That morning, day of the show, they re-announced the times and they'd switched them. So now I was calling Chencha, being like, "Hey, I'm supposed to finish my set 10 minutes before the Chencha set starts. I'm just letting you know that I don't know how that's going to work." And he's just like, "Well, I mean, it wasn't supposed to be like that." And it was just one of those things where like everyone's got different deals, everyone has different conversations with the booker, and at the end of the day, the booker does what the booker does, and uh, so no one played at one, but we did because we were there. We had our
Yeah.
instruments. We're like, "Let's do it. We're already
Hmm.
here." And we played, and like the sound guys were like, "Who are you guys? Never heard of you." And the crowd was like, "Who?" But I think that's fine because the whole point of it is to play. So we played,
Mm-hmm.
we did our thing, played like 5 songs, went over to the small stage, played our original time slot on the small stage that they were still building, and
Yeah.
then our festival experience in Mexico was done. But we got to play in left center field out there, and um, regardless of all the semantics of getting there, the guy who booked us was on stage filming live, excited. He loved it. He had a great time. He liked what we did. Mission accomplished. You
There
know.
you go.
So on to the next mission. So
Going back to what you said about where they cut off the sets and turn the lights on and all that stuff. Back in I think it was '97, I had the opportunity to tour manage Yeska and
mhm.
Ozomatli. I don't know if you know those bands.
I'm a big Ozomatli fan for
Oh,
sure.
okay, so Ozo, it was at the Coquetry in San Francisco,
I gotta enjoy it.
and Ozo they went past their set, and the Coquetry turned off the sound, they turned off everything. So what Ozo did is they took it to the street and went out and played on the street acoustic style. It was
Nice.
fucking wild, but I was going nuts. I'm like, what the fuck? We're not gonna get paid. But that was pretty crazy. That one and one of the bands stealing pillows from one of the hotels the next day. That was just wild. But that just
Wait,
reminded
the
me.
band was stealing pillows?
Yeah, what I can't. I'm not gonna say
I
the
thought
band.
I thought I thought you meant the band, comma, stealing pillows. I was like, that's a great band name.
Oh no, no.
Stealing pillows? I
No,
would love that's so
one
good.
of the two bands stole pillows from the hotel, and then
Okay.
they had to come on the bus and tell us, "You need to give it to us, or we're gonna fucking charge him." You're tour managing, you're in charge of everything. So it was
Oh
fucking
yeah.
bullshit.
Uh,
But that just when you said that just reminded me of that, so I just wanted to tell you that story.
Oh, there's shenanigans on every tour that I've been on. I don't think there's been a tour where it's like, all right, guys, nothing went wrong. Everyone was happy.
Yeah,
We all slept a bunch. We all ate enough food. We all drank enough water, and we made a bunch of money. Let's go home.
that's
No.
funny. Yeah, That it's funny because when you said that at that show in Vegas, Joe Gittleman was there uh, well, it was from the Boss Tones, but he's got the new band now.
Kilograms. Shout out to those
Um,
dudes.
we were talking about a band I used to manage called the Hippos back in the '90s, and on our first tour with the Hippos in '97, the sax player quit. Roman Fleischer. He quit the band. Then a year later, he's playing with the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. So he totally, did that. So there are crazy shit, like you said, things that happen on tour that you're not expecting. And you just got to fucking go with the flow and make it work. So yeah, I do know some of that shit. It's just fucking crazy.
Yeah, being a sub like sax player, having gotten called in to fill in for people for X amount of reasons. Oh my God. I mean, some of those stories I can't even tell.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Like
Oh,
some of those stories are like, Eric, you probably shouldn't have told me that. Like, but it's part of it. It's part
Yeah.
of this crazy
Yeah.
ride, and I'm sure I'm sure all the other freelancers who work with other bands have stories,
Yeah.
like when I played with Bad Manners, I asked around, I was like, so what's it gonna be like? And they're like, oh, congrats. But then like 3 seconds later, they're like, we need to tell you some stories. Like you need to know about a couple things.
Watch out for Buster when he's really fucking drunk.
Nah, Buster was cool with he was chilling. He had a good vibe on tour. I mean, the first day, I mean, I had never met Buster before, and I was on stage with him 24 hours later.
That's
So
fucking awesome.
those 24 hours that's its own story. That's an own story, play by play. But
Yeah.
like, he pushed us hard, and he should. He should push us hard. I really learned that from him. That like, it's not coming from a place of like control. I mean, to an extent, but it's also comes from a place of legacy. Comes from a place of loving the band. Comes from a place from like Bad Manners is a really important band, and it's not just like do your best. No, it's do your best and then more without is push it as hard as you can because why not? And Buster would always kind of right before we got on stage, he would like huddle us up and like give us this like speech to kind of get us energized. And I don't remember going on that stage stressed out or unhappy ever. Because every time he talked to us, he would just make us smile and laugh, and we would get on stage laughing because that's the kind of energy that he gives off on when it comes to playing shows. And he would tell us like, this isn't a concert, this is an exercise class, get those knees up, jump, dance, make people dance, have smile, have a good time. Like, and he would just and he wouldn't it wouldn't be one of those things we'd be like, don't forget to smile. It'd be one of those things where you like make us laugh and we'd be like, all right, let's go. And we would have great shows. And we did 5 shows in that 1 week. So, I spent a week on the road with those guys, and I got a lot of good stories on that tour. But
That when whenever I think of Buster, I only have one image in my head of when he played on top. They played on Tops of the Pops, and he wore that dress when they played Can Can. Have you ever see that? So you ever
yeah,
see Buster in a dress kicking up his knees? All you know how he kicks up. He played with him. He
yeah.
kicks up his knees and does everything. It was fucking hilarious. That's the Buster that I see.
So now, from my perspective, Buster's, older now, and so I'll be on stage, and they like to have the tenor sax right next to Buster. So he would put his arm on my shoulders, so he would fall over, which is fair. And
He'll throw you off.
I just no, but I just would always remember like this is a trip, like I'm over here and he's over here, hand on my shoulder, dancing, and like there's a couple solos where if you wanted it to be like, oh, saxophone feature, here, saxophone, come here. And it would just be like, I could be soloing, and if he ever gave me that like signal, I'd go over to him and he would use his microphone.
Yeah,
And there's a couple good photos where he's just staring at me smiling, like, look at this dude. Like and I appreciate I really appreciate that. Like over the couple times I've seen him, we've gotten some really good photos together of just like, man, it was just a week, but fuck yeah, it was
I
it
think
was
that
it
was the
was a really
first
good
time.
experience.
That was the first time I think I saw you play. Was with them a couple years ago at Supernova.
No, okay.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, well, I mean, everyone, when people talk to me, they're like, "Oh, I saw you play." I'm like, "We need to narrow this down a little
Yeah.
bit." You know, like what year, what state, what band,
Exactly.
and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
But everyone, like I was even thinking about making a post recently of being like, "Hey, if you know me from music, what was the first band that you saw me play in just for fun?" And I feel like there would be, just like you said, there's a lot of different. But that was really the first time you saw me. You didn't see me play with the other bands like that whole weekend.
Well, who else did you play with? I don't
Well, I
remember.
did. I did one tune with. Was it that year? I think I did a tune with Hub City.
Yeah, you were with
Uh,
Subsidy, I believe.
yeah, because they have that song "Hard Place to Be," which is one of my favorite songs
Well,
that they have,
yeah, I've
and
only I've
Jenny
only
sings
been
it.
to the 2023 Supernova, so it must have been last year because Droogs Don't Run played that the 2023.
Okay, so because I
So
remember
it must be last
2023
year.
was 7 bands that I was on stage with. I did 2 full sets, Bad Manners and the Resignators at the Thursday like before party, the pre-party, because it was
Oh, I
Oh
remember
yeah,
that.
It was
we didn't go to
Resignators
pre-party.
and Westbound Train on
Oh,
the
got it.
Thursday
Oh,
before.
Yeah.
But then I hopped on and played a couple songs with Hans Gruber and the Diehards, Against All Authority. Whenever Jay Navarro sees me at a show, he asks me if I want to hop on and play Hey, which is always a pleasure.
Uh-huh.
Uh, there's a feel like there's a couple more bands.
I think this
Um,
was must have
yeah,
been
you was
last
on
year.
stage a lot. You were on stage a
Was
lot.
yeah,
that
That's
it
what I
was
last year?
remember.
7. No,
Yeah.
last year I took it easy, and like everyone was telling me, it's like, "Oh, are you gonna play more?" I'm like, "Nah, bro, I'm chilling out." Like, there's plenty of great bands and great players. I'm chilling,
Yeah.
and also like um something that I haven't really ever said in an interview or any kind of thing like this is I don't play in those bands for like the business or the exposure, all this stuff. I do it because I these are songs that I listen to on repeat in my car, and when people are like, "Do you want to play it?" Of course. Like it's a pleasure. It's so
Hmm.
nice to be able to
Mhm.
play those songs. And like, some bands are like, "Oh, well, how much will you charge us?" It's like, dude, if you just asked me and it's one song, I don't know. I was gonna buy a t-shirt anyways. Yeah, I was a t-shirt. We cool?
Yeah.
Like I'm really just trying to help out. I'm not trying to be like, well, and
Yeah.
like, no,
This
I'm just
contract.
yeah, exactly. I'm just trying to hang out. I thought this was punk
Yeah.
rock. Like I thought we were just hanging out here. Like and and when a band's like, "Hey, we need you to play full sets on this tour," it's a different conversation. But like,
Mhm.
I always, like when people ask me stuff about my, how I play with different bands, it's just a million factors. Um, whether it be if I ask them or if they ask me, or if their horn player's gone, or if he's not, or if they even have saxophone. Because some bands that don't have saxophone were like, that'd be great to feature a saxophone. But some bands without saxophone would be like, no, it doesn't fit.
Right.
So like there's all of these situations, and it tends to be just bands that you know, I know personally, and I'm like, hey, let's play, or bands that I used to tour with that I'm like, hey, I know, can I do a song or two? Like the Scotch Bonnets. I played like the first Supernova I did 2021, like they played and I played a couple songs.
Hmm.
I went and listened back on the recording and my microphone wasn't on, but I still was playing and the people who were right in front of me heard me. So and that's another thing that happens, like you can't you can't win them all. It's
Yeah.
it's usually
Yeah.
because you hop on and just use a random microphone, and the sound guy's like, "Oh, what mic is he on?" He's trying to
Yeah.
figure it out, and by the time he figures it out, the song's over. So
Yeah.
I always
Exactly.
wondered that. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
if you
funny.
yeah if you ever wondered why horn players just have a bad time like that,
That's why.
it's
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's definitely that. Because like if a keyboard player comes on, there's either a keyboard already up there or they already set that up. Because that's
Yeah.
not just a hop on stage and use a random mic kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's happened to me. And it just happened to me in Mexico. It was like it was a sweaty show. The monitors had all blown out,
Oh
and I
shit.
was right in front of the guitar amp of the one of the guitarists, and I love the man, but the man had been drinking, and so I was listening to only him. And he was definitely the drunkest guy on stage. I'm not trying to talk shit, but he's definitely the drunkest guy on stage. And I had no monitors. I couldn't hear vocals or myself. And like
Oh
that
no.
show, I had such a rough time and like had Oh, but then when someone showed me a video, I was like, oh, my microphone wasn't on. I'm so glad actually.
Um,
Because in my head it was just a battle,
yeah,
but on the videos, I looked like I was having fun. So
yeah.
it's
That's all that
cool.
matters.
Yeah, and the one sound guy's like, "Hey, I didn't mean to upset you." I'm like, "No, it's just I can't hear anything. I'm trying to play. I'm trying to do my best here. Like it's and like some sound guys, especially in Mexico, I feel like it's a cultural thing. In the U.S., sound guys are a little bit more intense. Or if you're like, hey, we need this, you have to be able to back it up. Like if you're yelling at the dude, it better be for it's either too loud or you're whatever. You gotta be nice to the guy. But I feel like in Mexico, I don't think I was like, hey. I think it was just that I couldn't hear myself and he couldn't see me. I'm like, hey, you know. And at the end of the show, he's like, hey, I'm really sorry for everything. He's like, I didn't mean to like upset you or anything. I was like, no, I wasn't upset. I just wanted to hear myself. We're cool. Let's go hang out. And they're, hey, next. That's to me, that's part of that bilingual, understanding the two vibes and because he kind of thought I was just this angry, pissed off American. I was like, nah, it was just the sound. And I mean, the crazy part about that show is our monitors were dead, but they had fucking sparkler pyrotechnics. It's like, dude, get rid of those and get different monitors.
Hmm.
I think it was the stereotypical. It always happens in these like smaller productions in Mexico where the local bands will play first and crank it and just crank the hell out of it, and a speaker or two will blow by the end of the show.
Hmm.
Oh well,
Um,
yeah.
and it's just part of people go hard, and it's nice, but when you play last and they're like bad news, no monitors.
Yeah.
So with
But
all the experience going on tour, what are the crucial items one needs to go on tour besides the instrument?
just one thing,
Oh, things, yeah,
a couple things.
yeah.
I have just a rechargeable battery on my phone. It is really nice to, especially when you're like, dude, in Luxembourg, I went for a walk with 7% on my phone, and I walked too far, and my
Oh
phone
no.
died. And I'm in Luxembourg alone, and I was like, okay, self, you remember where you are from this plaza. Just find the plaza. And I walked around, and I saw it way far away. I was like, I see it, I see it. I went to the plaza, and I was like, okay. And then I started seeing these street signs with stickers all over them, and I was like, I remember seeing these, and I followed street signs with punk stickers all the way to the venue.
Wow.
And
Oh, nice.
and I turned the first corner where I'm like, it's right here. I'm confident. I turned the corner and it was not. And I remember being like, oh fuck. Like for a second, like, oh no, I think I fucked up. I mean, fuck up would be like I have to go to a store, buy a charger, charge my phone, and then be fine. But like I was like, oh no, I have to play soon. And then the second attempt, I was like, I think this is it. That it was luckily right, but having that little portable battery, it keeps you from getting lost in strange countries and cities. Um, but then I also like to take I take my own microphone and like it's a little clip on,
Mhm.
and I take these headphones I'm wearing right now, these in ears,
Mhm.
because I use them for headphones. I use them for any use, but also like in Mexico City and some of those bigger stages, they'll give you wireless packs, and you need to have these on you,
Oh,
or else you won't be able to hear the band very well because
Mm.
these are slightly higher. These ones aren't fancy ones, but like most in ears are nicer quality audio, so you really can hear the bass and the vocals and everything nice and clean. So if you have some like cheap earbuds, you're gonna have a bad time. I always when I fly, I always ask for extra headphones, and I keep one extra pair in my bag for emergencies. You
Mhm.
know, um, extra reeds. You need extra
oh,
reeds
yes.
because the reeds are just really really flat wood. If someone like brushes by you, it just rips it apart, and you're on stage. That's why every time I'm on stage, I have another reed in my pocket,
Mhm.
100% of the time. Well, not 100, but I try to remember 99% of the time. Um, but rolling papers, very important.
Okay.
Some punks in France really taught me a lot of skills there. So
I bet.
shout shout out to those guys. What else? I'm trying to think. I like to take a hoodie because a hoodie can be a blanket, it can be a pillow, it could be everything you need. It could be the thing that you put on the seat so the seatbelt thing doesn't jam into your ass. It's the hoodie is a multi-use, you know.
Yes.
Um, it would be nice to be able to like travel with like a pocket knife, but you just can't. You know, you can't fly with one. So I used to do it when I only toured by land, but then it just I've been flying a lot lately. One thing is this is a recommendation from Danny from Stop the Presses. I did the first public servants tour. Well, for me, it was with him, and he had microfiber towels because you can dry off and they dry really fast, or they
Oh,
dry off in the car, or you put them in the sun for a couple of minutes and they're dry. You can't have a big, fluffy, giant, wet towel with you. You just can't.
Right.
But you still need that for X reasons. And then sometimes I do it, sometimes I forget. But I like to get little packs of electrolyte tablets
Oh yeah.
huh.
just because I'm a big dude. I'm sweating buckets. I try to consume. If it's really hot and I'm sweating daily, just one. But like after big sweaty shows, I'll take one or mix it into
Smart.
a water bottle, right?
Hmm.
That's smart.
Um,
Smart.
but what I do is I take a duffel bag, and inside that duffel bag I have a laptop bag that has all my small stuff. My duffel only has clothes. That way I can condense it into just that bag, and then my sax case. I never have to check a bag. I just live
Oh,
out of a
nice.
duffel bag. This last tour is 5 weeks out of just a duffel bag.
Hmm.
The good thing is you can do your laundry math by knowing where you're staying. So like on that last tour, like I did a couple kind of more DIY tours, but then I had one where we stayed in a couple Airbnbs down to do laundry, like
Hmm.
so just being able to have all those habits ready to go. Um, I mean, it's everything else is just kind of closing your instrument. I really don't take a whole lot other than that. I basically told you my whole list. You
That's
know,
awesome.
it's
Yeah.
pretty slim just because
Yeah.
if what are you really gonna read 3 books? Hell no.
No.
I'll bring one little one and I'll read 2 pages and be like, maybe I shouldn't have even brought this, or I brought my whole laptop or a whole tablet or like, whatever it is that you think you need. Every tour you start realizing you don't really need it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, and it is really nice to be on the road and just like everything that you have on you, you can carry. And it's not like because I used to carry a hiking backpack full of clothes, like literally 2 weeks worth of clothes. But now I only do about 1 to 10 days ish tops. And it was that, and then another bag, and then I had a flight case that had tenor sax and alto sax. So it
Oh,
was this giant metal box, but I'd have to check it. And every time I got my instrument out, it would always be beat up and kind of not, because it got shaken
yeah.
so
Oh,
much.
man.
And they're
Dang.
like, oh, it's a giant metal box. We can throw it. It's got
Oh, yeah.
fragile stickers all over it. But they don't get
Okay.
hell.
Yeah.
There. I mean, I retired that one after I found like a half-inch like dent
Oh,
into the
Oh,
metal, and I was like, they hit that hard. Like that's not a scratch or just like that. They dropped that like from a pretty good distance, like,
oh, man.
and I bought myself a little tiny case, and I carry it on every time now. It's, I guess that's an important one. A really nice travel case, or have really thought about how you travel with your instrument. Some people, some people. Sorry, I'm talking a lot. I've been
Oh,
hanging
you're,
out.
you're good. You're good.
Uh,
you're good.
some
That's
people
why this interview.
travel. Yeah, no, appreciate it, guys. I appreciate it. Some people travel with like a beat up horn, like it's not their main horn.
Mhm.
I'm crazy. I like to travel with my main horn, which is why I literally sleep in the same room with it. If I go to the bathroom in public places like airports or like anything, or in a bar. If I'm, I have it on me. Like it's always with me. I treat it like it's my child. I actually had the zipper on my case get beat up, and I went to go get it maintenance, and they're like, "No, you have to leave it here so it stays in line." I was like, "Oh, I can't just bring it back." And they're like, "Yeah, you have to leave it." And I was like, "That's my nice case. Like, I need that." And they're like, "Well, it's your choice." So it was crazy how much I didn't want to leave it. It like I've traveled the whole like all those places with that case. So it was really strange to like leave it and be like, I'm gonna drive home without it. I don't like this. Does not feel good, you know. But they got it
Yeah,
all
yeah,
souped up. Shout out to those guys. They've it's all working.
good, good,
It was
good.
broken because of TSA,
Yeah.
and it was more broken
Man,
because of TSA. Yeah, because they like
man.
if the zipper gets stuck, they just force it. They don't care. You know, they got a job to do, and they got a quota. They got to get through all those bags. They're just forcing it. Cool saxophone, cool story, zip. And then I open it. I'm like, what the, you know?
Oh
But
man.
You should just take the one shirt on your back when you go on tour, and then just wear whatever t-shirts you get from every all the other bands.
I I have started doing that a little bit. I take more of like everything else except shirts,
Yeah.
and
Mhm, mhm.
I make a plan to be like, I'm gonna get 3 shirts on this tour minimum. And
Yep.
last tour, I got a couple of famous idea shirts. Amazing. Yeah, I've been wearing them around, and people were like, "Oh, that band is great," you know.
Yeah.
So big ups to those guys. We did a couple shows with them in Canada with the Resignators. Yeah, I'm filling in for. I don't think Resignators even has a saxophone. I think they just have trombone and trumpet.
Oh.
And their trombone player couldn't make it out to Canada these last couple weeks, you know, a couple
Mhm.
weeks back, and
Mhm.
I filled in with Dom from Do It with Malice, who had played with Mal Hablados on tour. So it's all just you know it's all a giant Venn diagram, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, bro.
But yeah, I got a lot of stories.
Yeah.
It's
It's
been a
good.
lot of traveling.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
why we asking. Yeah.
no, that's cool,
Now,
man. That appreciate
Is
you.
it your turn, Jose? I don't know.
okay, sure. Why not? What's been the wildest crowd reaction that you've gotten at a show? The wildest crowd reaction.
Hmm.
You mean like people taking off their shirts, ripping
Yeah,
off their
I
shirts,
don't
like you
know.
said
I
earlier?
guess that's wild.
Just
Crowd surf. I
anything
don't know.
crowd related. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for me on stage, like I always tell this story about like because about fronting a band and riling people up. This was back when I was a fan. I remember the vocalist was like, there was a band called Chiodos, and the vocalist said, "You guys are boring as hell. Let's see some fucking acting." And he was just trying to rile people up. He goes, "All right, if you guys want to actually get down, the first person that gets on stage gets free merch." And people literally just jumping, crawling on top of each other like they were zombies, and the security tripled up and was like, stop, you know, like at the barricade. And I saw people like getting on top of other shoulders and then on top of their shoulders. So it was like ladders, like in like the scenes from like Lord of the Rings where they have the ladders to like
Yeah.
you know, the siege. It was pretty sweet. But
Oh,
that energy, you know, I stuck to me. But you know, at Supernova this last year, we did a wall of death at out in the field, and
Mhm.
we played. I think Saturday early on. I think it was like
Mhm.
1 p.m., 12:30, so 12:30. It was 12:30. It was really early, and
yeah.
I got people rowdy, and we split that wall, and
Yeah.
and all the ska people were like, "What's happening?" And all the rowdy hardcore kids are like, "We know exactly what's happening." And yeah, that was probably one of the really good ones that I remember. Um,
I think that
Another one.
same year, Los Carnales brought like a lot of the women on stage too,
Yeah,
right?
Yes.
those
Yes.
dudes were
Yes.
partying. They're like,
Yeah.
ladies, let's dance. I
Ladies.
think they
Yeah.
were
All
playing
these
a
ladies came
cumbia.
up.
I think they were
Yeah.
playing a
It was awesome.
cumbia. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking to myself because I was like, "Ooh, I'm playing hardcore songs at Supernova. Like the internet people are gonna be mad, you know." But those dudes were playing cumbias.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
the vibe's a vibe. Do your thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
we interviewed those guys a couple weeks back.
Mhm.
Yeah, great dudes.
Those guys are fucking
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
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 Great
I
bunch of
just
guys.
I mean, Jose, you just saw Chewy, right?
Yeah.
We just saw him in Vegas because he was playing with
Yeah.
Toasters, so it was nice to see him. Um, but yeah, I see those dudes around every once in a while. it's always a pleasure to hang out. Nestor's really cool.
Mhm.
All those dudes are mi tocayo, el Richard on keys, Molina. So he's
Another
my
Molina.
tocayo. I keep telling
In
people in the States that there's words that we don't have here. Like there's no tocayo in English.
English, yeah, you don't have tokayo. Well, how would you say that? My
The dude that has the same name as me, it's like an entire
yeah,
sentence.
it's a sentence.
And like it doesn't imply that like because in Mexico when you say tocayo, it's like you're like this much friends, even though you
Yeah,
just met.
Yeah.
yeah,
You could be like, oh, taxi driver, we're this much friends now.
Yeah.
Like it's that's we don't have that here in the States,
no,
So I don't know.
yeah,
That's one of my favorite words in Mexico for sure. Just
yeah,
because I run into other dudes named Eric, like, tocayo, what's up?
yeah.
I'm like,
Hey, just saying the word "tokayo" all loud and
yeah,
oh,
it's a
yeah,
cool word too. It's a
it
cool
is a
word to
cool
say.
word. Yeah.
Um,
Now
but yeah.
there are some I think a festival that you guys play every year in July. Or no, that's coming up in July, the MIG Fest, right? Up in Oregon.
hmm
All right. Is that a yearly thing that you guys do?
We've I don't did we do it last year? Yes, we did it last year, but we're doing it this year. We've done it twice. Um, yeah, because the time before I played it, but not with Mal Hablados. It was
Got
before Mal Hablados existed. So we did 23 and 24, and we're doing 25. Yeah, 22. I was playing some alto with Mata Mosca. They needed some horn players, and I was happy to help. Um, Speaking of which, the horn section for that was me and Joven, and Joven unfortunately has been in ICE detention for months since November.
Oh yeah, we saw a post
That
about
would
that. Yeah.
happen. Oh,
So
I saw Monte Mosca the other. Yeah.
for anyone that's listening at this point or whatever, please go to the Mata Mosca page and I think they have shirts or they have a GoFundMe. They have ways that you can support, like everyone in this ska scene talks about unity and support. Well, here's your chance. Like this is one of the dudes that you listen to. This is one of the dudes that puts a lot of energy into the scene. Let's help him. Please, it's there. Free Joven. So I hope he's doing okay. Shout out to those guys and
You
everything they're
guys,
going through.
you
Yeah.
also help out a lot of bands too. It looks like you're bringing up the Hellas,
Yeah,
from Fresno up to you guys, right?
yeah.
To play a couple shows.
The
Okay.
first because I used to tour in only like reggae bands because that was kind of like the circles I was in the beginning. The first ska band I toured with was Monkey
Yeah.
and
There it is.
Gabe, who I think is the leader of the Hellas, was playing bass in that crew, and I did like 2 or 3 tours with them. Spent some really good time on the road with them. Um, And yeah, I got to know Gabe. The Hellas are new. And I was like, hey, we got a couple shows. You guys want to come up and do these shows? And, you know, so it's,
And they said, "Hella, yes."
yeah. Well, we have a similar kind of mentality as far as West Coast bands in different regions, and having positive relationships with each other and being able to like, hey, come sleep at my house. I'll help you book a show. Like, well, like if you're traveling, we want to make sure that there's a network, right? And those guys are in. You said Fresno, but I think they're in San Jose. So they're in the South Bay,
Got it.
um, which is which is a good place to be for, say, if you're an LA band and you play San Francisco and you on the way back, it's nicer to stay in the South Bay so you can avoid the Bay and not have to drive through it, right?
Mhm.
And when they come to Seattle, I'm like, hey, play Seattle, drive back to Portland, stay at my house. Like we try to host as many people as we can. Um, Recently, we hosted the guy who was on bass with Skaldic. He was playing. He was just one of the last minute guys who jumped in. He crashed at the house. We're gonna have Dom from Do It With Mouth is gonna come crash. I think when Mephiskapheles, we're gonna host a couple of those guys here. Just kind of keep it DIY, and keep it because sometimes DIY is just as comfortable and just way more chill than staying in some hotel that you have to spend an hour parking for.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's,
Mhm.
but yeah, try to set up that network, and Gabe has that network down in San Jose. So big ups to him, all the shows they're doing. Shout out to the Hellas as well.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
love their sound, bro. I
yeah,
love
it's
the
cool.
Hellas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're really cool.
And they do a lot of covers too. They have like the Ninja Turtle song, a lot of Richie Valens covers, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's some bands like to have a balance of those or no covers or it's cool to see all the different ones. I mean, I just saw postings of I think some guys from the UK, like I think it's like Barstool Preachers, Andy B and Talina from Bite Me Baby just did a Taylor Swift project. Like
Mhm.
in COVID, I did the Housebound Ska Collective where we did covers just during COVID, just recording at our house. That was my intro to home recording. The first one was recorded on like the crappy little Zoom recorder, and I sent them that track like, I hope this is okay, and they're like, ah. And I learned, I had plenty of time to do some research in that era, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, we would do weird songs. Like that was kind of the purpose of the band. Was like when some bands are doing Billie Eilish, we were doing Through the Fire and Flames and Africa by Toto. Like why? Because we could. The one that did the
Yeah.
best was Misery Business by Paramore.
Oh yeah, it's a good song.
And I think if you look on Facebook, it's specifically like Facebook videos. I think we got it up to like 380,000 views.
Oh
Wow.
And we all got a couple bucks from it. It was, go buy dinner, bro.
yeah,
Nice. Nice.
But hey, better than nothing. We were just hanging out.
Right.
But apparently, a bunch of people in the Philippines listen to us because you see all the stats on Meta and Facebook, right? So we're like,
Uh,
all right, cool.
that's the next place to play for you.
Hey,
yeah.
why not? Yeah,
That's
sorry for all the tangents. It's just I have so many
Oh no, this
stories
is
and they
great.
all
No,
connect into each other
no,
and like
that's what we love most about this. And then like sometimes we go 2.5 hours because with the stories, and that's the whole purpose of this.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh man, I mean I have a lot. You
yeah.
gotta, I mean I don't know what else you guys want to talk about. I don't know. I'll let you
Okay.
guys
Next
lead
question.
it.
Who's Daryl? Me? Who is
I
it?
think it's you. I went a couple
Again?
times. Yeah.
All right. Now, in your hometown, how is the Latin ska scene evolving right now? Is it evolving any
In
or
my hometown,
yeah?
like my original hometown where Caipirinhos was,
No, no.
or
No,
Portland,
Portland. I'm saying yeah.
where I wouldn't say that it's evolving too much.
Mhm.
From what I'm aware of, there's a lot of like bandas, regional Mexican stuff. There's some salsa cumbia, like some of the event bands they do kind of like a mix, like the same way
Mhm.
that a salsa cumbia DJ, but like what would they play and then play it live? Like there's
Oh,
Barrio Mestizo, Conjunto Alegre, there's Son de Cuba, there's Dina y los Rumberos, there's Palante, there's Pura Vida. Those are a bunch of these salsa cumbia bands. I played, I think, with
okay.
four of them, with Dina, Conjunto Alegre, with Pura Vida, and with I forget the last one. I forget one of the names, but um, yeah, like we're playing like merengues, which playing merengue on my time off between ska tours and then going back. Oh man, it's it's some serious saxophone training because I don't know if you guys are really familiar with merengue. It's a Dominican style, but it's super saxophone heavy,
Mhm.
and it's one of those styles where it's just saxophone melodies like da 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 da, and it just goes on the entire song. No, like I mean, there's a couple chunks where they like will break and take out the saxophone, but it's
Yeah.
just like in dub reggae where they like will take out the rhythm section for like 4 bars and then put it right back in. That's how it's used. So it's just constant playing and fast as hell. And then salsa is always really punchy and it's common to have two trumpets in salsa, but since different songs have different orchestrations, usually they'll
Mhm.
hire a trumpet, a tenor sax, and a trombone. But tenor sax, sometimes I'm playing trombone too because I can play down low. But
Mhm.
sometimes I'm playing trumpet too because I can play just high enough to sit under the lead trumpet.
Oh,
And being able to transfer your thought process between like, what's my job here? Am I harmony to the low voice or am I harmony to the high voice and I have to be above the trumpet? Like you have to do all those things. It's really good for bringing that information back to the ska scene.
Yeah.
mhm.
Because I feel like horn playing, like it's great, people are playing, people are having fun, but the same way that you would orchestrate the guitar parts, you have to orchestrate the horn parts. You don't just here's your note. no, like let's what octave is your note? It's not even
Mm-hmm.
like which note. It's like what octave and which instrument,
Octave.
and like and then voicings because the way I explain it is a piano player like puts all four keys. This finger's trombone, this is sax, tenor sax is alto, this is trumpet. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
And like whether it's really close together, or it's really far apart, or if it's just the same notes and different, like all that stuff,
Yeah.
all that stuff matters. And bands like, just like I was saying, Streetlight Manifesto, bands like Bad Manners, all that really is what made a lot of those bands pop. Um, one of the bands that we just announced that we're doing some Mal Hablados shows with in October is Cherry Poppin' Daddies,
Oh.
and they're super known for their horn playing. I got to do 3 shows with them. They invited me to sub in, and I'm gonna double duty on those shows in October as well. But they have a new ska album coming out. Steve Perry was telling me that I think it's like 30 songs. I don't know if
Wow.
they're all gonna make it onto the record, but it's gonna be like 20 plus new Cherry Pop and Daddy songs. I
Oh,
think there's
cool.
2 or 3 singles up already, but like, yeah, it's new. I think.
I think on that show they're doing an all ska set too, right?
Yep, a
Yeah,
bunch of the new stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
and
Oh,
I the,
excellent.
the old ska stuff is really fun. Like, there's a song called Pool Shark that has a really really cool horn line.
Huh.
There's a Don Quixote, of course, is
Oh,
the
yes.
classic. But there's
Mhm.
there's some really cool ska songs in their book. They're buried, but they're in there.
Yeah, I have one of their CDs. It's called Ska Boy JFK or something.
That's the one with all the ska tunes. Yeah,
Yeah, with all the ska tunes.
the
Yeah,
bright orange one. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. One of the stories from that tour that I can highlight is we played the first show, and some of the ska songs, you know, the set was all good, but the guitar player was having a little issue with the ska stuff because he was in the band when they were just doing swing, and he was playing like banjo even because some of the Cherry Pop and Daddy stuff has banjo, and some of that old timey kind of traditional swing stuff has that banjo. Um, so he's more used to playing banjo and swing kind of guitar. So the ska stuff, like that groove, it was there, but it was missing a little bit. And I remember the next day they're like, Eric, you're gonna ride with us with him. You're gonna DJ and show him as much guitar, like ska guitar, that you can. Boom, beginning of impression that I get. Boom, Scatolites. Boom, every type of guitar skank. And by the end of that ride, the dude was ready. Because he's a
Yeah.
very good guitar player, but he needed the context. He
Mhm.
needed to hear what all these different ska grooves sounded like with the guitar part. And
Mhm.
I think that was a big part of me kind of getting to know those guys a little better, and then have them really be like, "Damn, this guy really is a ska nerd." Like, that's a good thing. Like, someone's got to do the ska nerd stuff, and like really be picky about the production and making sure it sounds right.
Right.
Best we can. You know, I don't. I've shared this story a few times, but one of my favorite moments was that Skank Bank tour, that first one. We opened for the Abyssinians. I don't know if you guys know who the Abyssinians
I've heard
are,
of
but
them.
it's old
I
reggae
know that.
group from Jamaica. And it was just the 3 old dudes, the vocalists, who are like they're famous for their vocal harmonies, and like a backing band from the Bay, right? And I talked to the main guy and I was like, "Hey, I'm this young guy. I'm Latino. Like, I really like ska. I've always liked reggae. Like, what advice would you have for me for playing this kind of music?" And he was just like, "Oh, it's a really good question." And he just said, "As long as you're appreciating the music and the sound and not appropriating it, you're doing good." And
Awesome.
that's one of the reasons Mal Hablados is what it is because I didn't want to sound like something that was already there. Like that's exactly what that dude said, Bernard Collins, that singer. He said, just appreciate it. You don't have to buy Fred Perry's and play, oh, we're skinhead reggae. It's 2025, man. If that music really speaks to you, great.
Mhm.
I'm not telling you don't do it. If that music moves you, do it. But it doesn't move me like that. I like it. I'll listen to it, but I'm not like, oh, this is my scene. I'm gonna go get some boots and some fried. Like I'm
Yeah.
gonna shave my fucking. No. And I mean, Inspector 7 has a great song called "Fresh Cut" about that. making fun of people who are like, "Oh, you're not really a skinhead, anti-racist skin. You just have a fresh haircut, you know."
Mhm.
And because that does matter in the scene, And
Mhm.
then Jay Navarro, one of my we did the Halloween shows and we played Detroit in my first year with Mephistopheles. And Jay Navarro was like, "Oh, it's cool," because a lot of these older dudes they wanted to get to know me because they know Mephistopheles from so long,
Mhm.
and I'm that new guy. Like, who's this guy? So like, it was a very organic. I wouldn't say they're like my best friends, but it was a very organic way to build a little relationship there. It was like, hey, so tell me about you. Like, who are you? Like, in the green room, just like, so you're the new sax player? Oh, great. Like, um, so it's been super nice that as I've been invited in to Meth, like in those first tours, I was just filling in, but I just filled in to the point where I'm just around and yeah, I mean, the beauty is finding like-minded people and I found like-minded people who are a whole different generation than me, which is
Mhm.
that's good. It's natural and it's also helping me a ton just because I learned a lot more from them because ska isn't stuff that came out in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
You need some of that wisdom from the years.
Mhm.
It's good. It's necessary. That's how all this music thing gets passed down, right? So it's been really nice to have these guys be like, "Oh my God, exactly what you're talking about. We went through this stories. Like the same way I'm telling you stories.
Uh,
This is one, not even a half of a percent of what these guys have.
Mhm.
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
like when I'm in the van with them, I'm just listening to them. I'm
yeah.
listening to them. Like it's not like right now where I'm just talking my head off telling you stories. It's they're telling me about all these things. I'm like, oh, and all the bands are like that. It's nice
Yeah.
to hear. Yeah, it's normal. We're in the van for hours. What else are we gonna do? We talk about
Yeah.
random shit. Um, but yeah, it's been nice. It's been nice
And
playing with
on
them.
that show, you guys are bringing your friends from the neighboring state, Washington, Georgetown Orbits,
Yeah.
with you to that one. So it's kind of like your ska core band. You've got this trad ska band, and then you got a swing band that plays ska.
So what we were trying to do is we were trying to do only Oregon bands, and we asked the Bandulus, but they couldn't swing it.
Oh, got it.
Wow.
God, that would have been so good. Bandulus, Mal Hablados, Cherry Poppin' Daddies, oof. All Oregon ska bands.
Right, but there's also
Georgetown Orbits are the homies too,
but
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 they're in Washington though. That's the only reason I
the
mentioned it.
ready men who do punk ska reformed. They were supposed to play the Croydon Fest with Meth, but they canceled.
Where
So
are they from?
they're from Oregon.
No way. I'm
Yeah,
not.
I don't know where in Oregon. Oh, they're from. Is it Bend or
Oh, if they're from Bend, yeah, I don't know a lot of bands from Bend.
yeah,
Maybe.
I don't know, but they're from my time, from back in the '90s.
Nice. Okay.
So besides that, that's one of the other bands because back in the day, there was Francesca from back in the '90s. There, Cherry Papa Daddy, still the Ready Men, Bandulus, and then you guys. That's all that I know. So
Yeah, the Israelites, like I think it's worth noting, because when I moved to Oregon, I played with them for a little bit, like yeah, if you got that shirt within the last couple of years, I may have sent you that shirt. So
I've known Rich for
I'm sure you've
35
had it for a
years.
long time though.
Yeah, I've known Rich since he was because they were in the ska scene here in the '90s, late '80s, early '90s. So I've known Rich ever since they first fucking started.
Yeah, me
And then
playing in a
he,
satanic ska band was always complicated with Rich.
yeah, but they did one. They did one time with the Israelites and Mephistopheles. It was like a one show where it was just like hell meets heaven or something like that. Uh, I
Are
don't
are
know
are
how.
you are you sure that's not the Five Iron Frenzy one?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Absolutely right.
That was just a couple
Five
years
right there.
before I joined. I think it was right before
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah,
Because
you're right because I thought Rich doesn't want anything to do with anything satanic or anything like that. But they were a pillar in our LA ska scene when the ska scene first started here, and they were one of the very first bands, along with like Lucky Seven and Hepcat and um, bunch of other fucking bands back then.
Yeah.
The Imperials, Spy Kids. No, who else? The Federales. I don't know if you remember them. We had a lot of like cool ass trad ska bands back in the day. Israelites were very one of the very first.
Hmm.
So I still give them props. But no, I got this. I don't know where I got this from. I think I may have got it from Skabox, actually.
Yeah, I was the one. I was the one that got a bunch of those at Skybox. So
Oh, that's it. So it came from you then.
we did it. We did it.
You did it. Okay.
We did it. That's the point of the Skybox.
Lo
So
Yeah.
decimos.
Yeah.
yeah.
And we have a collaboration with the Ska Box. So we
Oh
give a
yeah.
Ska Box. We have a Ska Box away every month.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So we promote her stuff. She promotes ours.
Nice, nice.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, like when I hang out with people that we haven't really hung out and chatted a bunch, or heard me smoke and tell these stories a bunch. Oh man, there's fucking so many stories. But it's just it makes it so that when you come home, you see people who just went through 2 weeks of their day job, but you went through 2 weeks of crazy shit,
Mhm.
and now you're back, and their vibe is they're hanging out. But your vibe, you come back and you're like, oh my God, what did I just go through? Like it's, and then I do it over and over and it's a repeat, and every tour gives me some sort of like, oh wow, I didn't know that until now.
Mhm.
Well, here we go. Next,
Yeah.
like keep learning.
Mhm. Now, can you tell us a little bit about your song "Give It Up"? What does that song mean to you guys?
Yeah. So Give It Up is the lyrics were written by the guitarist at the time, and I did a little bit of edits, but the purpose of that tune is just to kind of like just talk about how you need to just stand up for things and just commit to it, follow through, you know, um, cut out the cancer before it eats you up and swallows you up, like that means like we have to do something about what's going on in society because it's a cancer and it's going to spread and it's going to cause problems. And the things that we've seen on our phones and TVs in the last couple months from a completely, what's the word? Neutral standpoint. That's just crazy. Like people
Yeah.
in other countries when I travel, they're like, "What's going on? Is this
Yeah.
true?" And I'm like, "Dude, unfortunately, like they really don't believe if it's true or not because it's
Yeah.
so out there." Like I was just in Canada, and they were like, "Hey, because I was in Canada with an Australian band, so people would come up to me like, "So, what part of Australia are you from?" And I'm like,
Portland, Australia.
"Portland, Oregon," and they're
Honestly.
like, they would all be like, "Oh, okay," like they wouldn't like dislike me, but it wouldn't mess with the mood of what was going on. Like I could be in a circle of Canadians, and they'd all just be like,
You tell them you're American, and they say, "I'm so sorry." Sorry.
"Yeah, sorry, yeah."
Sorry.
I
Sorry.
saw I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger on Jimmy Kimmel on the other night, and they asked him about the whole ICE thing and that whole LA and all that shit going on. And he said, it's just like everything. It was just like, Vietnam and the protesters and every other generation has this and we will get past it. So we've got to wait this out with this fucking administration that we have. Um, and hopefully things will get much better and it's not fucking ruined by everything that this Oompa Loopa's done.
Well,
Yeah.
USA's reputation is over, I think, in the other eyes of everybody else in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, not
So
forever, but for a little bit.
For a little bit, yeah.
And by a little bit, I mean years. So
Yeah.
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 we'll see what happens to the planet now, right?
I got a question. Your merch is fucking badass. Those designs, who does that?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I
Like everything
think,
I've seen, the t-shirts, I don't want the fucking chili pepper and shit too.
Yeah.
The teeth one, just everything I've seen is just fucking
Ya
killer.
vinieron las pizzas.
Las pizzas. Yeah.
Las pizzas.
I was working with someone that was helping me make some content online, and she was like, "Do you want to make some silly videos?" I'm like, "Yes, but they have to be Mexican silly videos."
I
And she was
saw it,
like,
bro. I loved it.
That's why we had Stevie, our trombone player, do the Chelino Sanchez meme. Did you see that one where someone hands him a note and he wipes his sweat and he
Oh
sings?
yeah.
You like we did that one. Like we're like if we're gonna do those dumb trends, we're gonna at least do the Latino ones, because
Yeah.
we wanna focus on that angle. The whole like, oh, I didn't see you there. Like, yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
choice. But
Yeah. That's funny. I saw your TikTok person was reaching out like, hey, anybody have Mal Hablados videos? And I had a video from when you guys were on Supernova, and I gave it to them, or they
oh yeah, we
posted it.
got it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
But
yeah.
but yeah, the back to the logos.
Oh
So the
yes.
pepper and the teeth, the original, are the same artist.
Okay.
You can kind of see all the line work is very similar,
Mhm.
especially on the teeth, like on the gums. If you look at the
Oh,
pepper, the
I don't have the
gums on the
pepper.
teeth have all those lines, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at the pepper, it also has those lines on there. So
Oh yeah.
that's kind of his style. Back in the
Hmm.
day, he goes by Shrank, but his name is Colin Horner. I think he changed his Instagram,
Oh,
so I
here's the
think
pepper.
yeah, exactly. So it's the same artist there. Um, so Colin is someone that went to high school like near me. We had a lot of similar friends, but we didn't know each other until I think we had met, but like I don't think we knew each other until college. We worked at a dispensary together. Before I started touring, I worked at a cannabis dispensary as a bud tender. And some people ask me like,
Nice.
"Oh, you have your people skills." I'm like, selling weed for 2 years is super helpful because like e- everyone that goes in there is going to have a good day if you do your job right.
Mhm.
Like
That's
you're going to
good.
make people's day very good if you do your job right. And like that was, that's another story, but like I really enjoyed that job. It was something that I could participate in cannabis culture in a positive way and actually help people. And like even though I had to take some of those dumbasses fake IDs, I still was like, come on, man. This is why we can't have nice things. Go and buy weed in the street like everybody else. Wait till you're 21. Like everybody else now. Like this whole like having a fake ID to buy weed, that's new, bro.
Yeah, bro. That's new. That's new.
If you need to figure that out, ask Google it. I don't know, but there's how the hell do you think people did it before? So like I would
Yeah.
always tell the young people like you're not in trouble, but you can't have this back. Like so I felt like I was good at it, but it was really good to have conversations and also build relationships with people that you only meet for a couple minutes at a time. I
Hmm.
feel like that's really crucial, especially in the live music scene, where people will be like, "Hey, bro, like I don't know if you remember me." I'm like, "I don't remember your name, but I remember where we were. I remember what we talked about. I remember what we did, and I remember like what show, who was playing. Like I may not remember the name, but I remember. I remember the interactions, and so that kind of thing. Because the ska scene's a community. And sometimes I feel like fans are like, "Oh, I don't want to talk to the artist." It's like maybe some, but I know in the ska scene, a lot of artists are just really grateful to at least say hi. Like maybe you're the slackers and you just got off a plane, played a show, you haven't slept. Are they going to be rude? No. Are they going to hang out all night? Probably not. But like most people in the ska scene are very, very cool like that. Like you go to a Skylight show, if you stick around long enough, you'll see Ken Stewart walking around smoking a little bit. You can go hang out and chat with him. Like it's like at Supernova, all the artists just walking around,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And I feel
Love
like
it.
that's a beautiful thing that we have in our scene, that we have that like, oh, I'm a big fan of this band, and now I can be friends with this guy on Facebook and see what he does musically. Where
Yeah.
other genres, that kind of connectivity is not the same. So like I've always been interested in that community that the ska scene has there. Um, but yeah, that's the story behind the art. The skull shirts. I don't know if you ever saw us post any skull shirts.
I did. I
Um,
just looked through the Facebook page, and I didn't see any other designs.
yeah.
Is it on the TikTok?
Maybe. Let me see. Can I share my screen? Yeah, I'll show you guys
Yeah,
that design.
I think.
But yeah, I can.
Las pizzas.
Las Pizzas? Yeah, hell
This is
yeah.
a ska history hour first.
Yeah.
Having someone else share
Uh-oh.
their screen, right? It's awesome.
Oh, I'm a big
Oh,
nerd. You
here we
get
go.
it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I
Oh,
have seen that one.
wow.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So this
I
is
need that.
this is the guy
I
right
need that.
here. So we're currently out. We're gonna get more.
Oh.
But the story with this is there's a band in the UK called Redeemin, Skacore band. Like Redeem, but O-N, Redeemin.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, Great band. I really like their music. Their leader, Pook, trombonist and vocalist, great dude. Hosted us when we were out with Serpents, was really good. He's treated Voodoo very well. He's treated Ocho Calacas very well. I think he even played bass on the Ocho Calacas tour just to help him out.
I've
Pook is
seen
the
him on
best.
Facebook.
Yeah, Pook is great. His art on his record with Redeemin is this artist. He's from, I want to say, the
Mhm.
Philippines. It's the underscore vigilante 88. That's all I know him as. And he does great work. Like I'm super happy with the skull. Because I told him I want a zombie, but a Day of the Dead. And the first one he
Mm.
gave me was like a pretty zombie. I was like, no, I want it to be ugly and like dripping. And the second part is if you look at the teeth on this dude, it's the same teeth as the main logo.
Mm.
And then on his forehead, you have the pepper.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I wanted to create like a little mini, like artistic universe there, um, where there's crossover, even though they're different artists. Um, that comes from my high school days. I was a big Coheed and Cambria fan,
Hmm.
and they have like the comic books that have to do with the songs. So having that visual kind of universe was always something really cool to me. So this is that logo.
Yeah, that's cool.
But
And I
yeah,
like
Oh.
the suns on his cheeks too. That's
yeah,
kind of
right.
cool.
You have the suns, you have like the flowers, but
Yeah.
then you have like the dripping, rotting flesh.
Yeah.
Mm. It almost looks like a sugar skull.
Like a what?
A sugar skull? Like Dia de los
Yeah,
Muertos?
exactly.
Oh,
That's what I wanted. A
Mhm.
zombie sugar
Yeah.
skull, just like that.
Yeah, sugar skull. Hmm.
Yeah. So these ones we had on the last tours, the last two tours, and a lot of people liked them. But right now we're doing the pepper one as a new shirt for now.
yeah.
See if people like those. So
Cool.
yeah, those are available
That's awesome.
now. They're gonna be on my front porch literally any second now. I'm expecting them
I need a
soon.
3X, please. Por
Yeah,
favor.
I got a couple big boy shirts. Not a
All
lot,
right.
but a couple. So
I just need one.
yeah, hit me up and we'll make it work. We'll make it work.
I am slimming down though. Mira, mira.
Órale, yeah, hell yeah. I will. All right.
A huevo. Mira,
Yeah,
mira.
that's
Now,
all the new stuff I got for you guys so far. So,
so what
Cool.
are your personal pet peeves and addictions?
hmm. Uh, I am 3 months sober from playing League of Legends. Go me.
Ah,
You play League of Legends? I'm sorry.
Not right
No.
now.
I'm sorry.
I
I'm
will used to.
clean. I'm clean right now.
Are you
No, it's
unsupervised?
because I started playing 2010 to like 15, and then I quit, and then I started playing music on tour.
Hmm.
And then I quit for 5 years. Then COVID hit, and I started playing again. And I honestly, I think I've had a worse connection to that video game than any substance in my life. Like it's like I need to say that out loud because it's I'm serious. Like people are like, "Oh, it's just a video
It's a
game." I'm like, "Yeah,"
recovery
until
thing.
you play 7 hours a day for minimum for weeks and months, and then like a year goes by, and you're like, "What did I do?" Like that's kind of what I was doing before that. Remember, I told you I started playing in 2014, and then I quit
Yeah.
playing in 2015. There was that year of like, what do I really want to do with my life? And we're talking because I chose music, and that's how I met you guys. So, um, no, if we're talking real shit addictions, it's probably that one. I had to delete it off my computer and just be like, I'm
Really?
clean. I'm
Who's your
clean.
mind? Who's your main? What
Ugh,
lane do you do?
ugh.
I'm sorry, I
You're,
gotta ask.
you're pulling it back in, man.
I
No,
know,
it's
I
okay.
know.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Who's your main?
Uh, Back in the day, I was a support main. Then I switched to
Okay.
jungle main. But I
Okay.
climbed to Diamond 2 on Thresh in back in the
Oh,
day.
Thresh.
Yeah, I was. It
Okay.
was. He was like new. He was like one of those guys that it was really complicated. No one knew how to play him. So I like took the time to learn it. And what helped is at the time I was working like a night shift at. I went back to the McDonald's that I worked in high school because
Uh,
I went home and they're like, "Hey, do you want hours?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like."
yeah.
It's not very often a job calls you and
Yeah.
says, "Hey, buddy, do you want to work or
Yeah.
what?" So, like in those times, I was lazy about finding a better job, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'll just go talk to the same dudes, do the same job, sell the same shitty fries, make the same shitty wage that I would make at something else." But I would get home at 4 in the morning,
Uh,
and that's exactly the time that the Koreans would play
oh no,
because back in the
the
day
sweaty Koreans.
they didn't have the video on demand. You couldn't just Google like pro games from different regions. Now that's a thing. But in
Uh,
2013, that shit wasn't a thing. You had to pay for subscriptions of OGN on Twitch and like you had to like invest in that. I wasn't going to do that. But I also
uh,
wanted to learn. So I was working that job and going home and watching the Korean professionals play. And I climbed the ladder and um I mean, I've met people in that game that have been important parts of my life, so it's really hard to say that it was all bad, right? My roommate lives across the hall from me. I met her
uh,
playing League of Legends in college
oh
15 years ago,
wow.
and she moved in this year of like, hey, I'm moving to Portland, I need a roommate. So it's like, well, we don't know each other that well, but we've talked for over a decade, and it's been cool. We've actually had a really good dynamic there. So like, I will there's humanness there, but there's not a lot.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
not a lot.
Now, I
But
just want to say, my main is Garen.
oh, you're
I'm a Garen.
you're one of those.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm
You're one of
sorry.
those. I know
Yes,
you're kind. I know. It's fucked up, man. Some people want
I'm
to have
sorry.
fun. Some
I
people
know.
want to have fun.
Yeah. No, but I rarely play it. But yeah, to me, Garen was just an easy character to play. I like his swinging around, and I
Yeah.
like his abilities.
He's
His
like
kit.
he's it's like that like learning curve of like I don't know if you've ever seen the meme where it's like not knowing music theory and then it's like a graph and it's like getting better and then like what you need for gigs and then the more music theory you need the less you use it because once you learn it you're like oh punk songs are 3 chords how much music like if you're analyzing John Coltrane yeah you need that but like or Bach but if you're playing an Opera Ivy song like it's way more straightforward but the
Yeah,
same goes for Garen players. You start there, and then as you get really good, you're like, "Why? I can just play this guy. He's easy.
yeah,
I don't have to
yeah,
try. I can just
yeah,
I just win games by just
yeah,
existing." No,
yeah.
I mean I like the game. It has like I have a complicated relationship with it, but like I quit playing right before this last tour, and I haven't touched
Uh,
it because I was like, if I play League, I'm gonna play League every single day until I go back on tour. And
it's on mobile too.
I need to stop. No, no,
Hey, don't,
Yes.
no, no. I'm clean. No, no.
Uh,
Um, I
if
quit
you want to,
drinking.
okay.
I wanted not that I want to change the subject, but like your question was addictions and stuff like that. Like,
Addictions, yes.
uh, I don't feel like I ever was addicted to drinking. Did I go too hard in college? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did I get over it? Yeah. Like you went hard. I went to the University of Idaho. Cannabis was illegal. Liquor was too cheap. Four Locos were 99 cents. Like why were Four Locos priced like Arizona teas? Like let's talk about that. But honestly, I started touring and I started like drinking on the road and I started not liking it and I would drink less and less and I would drink like one nicer beer instead of 12 PBRs
Mhm.
just because I had to be on the road and I'm not sleeping very good. I don't have a lot of water. Like if you're hungover, it's nice when you're at home and you have your bed and maybe
Yeah.
AC and maybe food in the fridge. But like when you're on the road, it is brutal. So it
Yeah.
wasn't until I went on a road with a band that I won't mention because we moved past each other. But they were drunks, to be honest. But they were different drunks. There was sad drunk. There's the angry drunk. There was the loud, like happy drunk. Like there's all the different types of drunks in the band.
Mm.
And the drummer was a freelancer, and he was an older cat. So like he and I were like the two freelancers, kind of watching all this shit go down. And like I said, he was a generation older than me, if not a generation and a half. And he was just like, "Bro, all this thing's going down. Just play your notes, play your shows, go home. You don't have to be on the road with these guys again if you don't like it." That's something that I really need to learn really early on about touring, because once you're out there, you're out there. It's I sometimes I mention the van being like a submarine, or like we're in the ocean right now. Like you can go home, but it'll be very complicated to do that. Just finish the mission and then
Mm.
go home. You know,
Mhm.
and it was really really good advice I got. You know, because I think I've been on like 25 tours total. Maybe two or three of those had things that are kind of sketchy. Statistically, pretty good. But on those tours, stressful, man. Like
Yeah.
really stressful. So I quit drinking on that tour because I was like, if I'm drinking, I'm not helping the problem. So I
Mm.
dried up. I chose to quit drinking. They gave me drink
Mm.
tickets. I would use it for food if they didn't accept it. I would tell someone, some stranger at the bar, hey, buy me a burger and I'll give you these drink tickets. It'll be the same.
Mm.
You know, like I'll find a way. And
That's
and then
great.
the
Yeah.
bartenders would catch me doing that. They were like, "Fine, we'll give you food." I'm like, "Yeah, dude. Like, I'm not trying to do anything here. I just want a fucking
I want to be
burger and
sober. Yeah.
fries." Like, damn, you know. And I felt better. I played
Yeah,
better.
I bet.
I came home. I looked in my wallet and I was like, "There's money in here. Not a lot, but I was like, I didn't drink all of my money. Hmm. I never touched this since. Literally since that tour. And that was
Wow.
October 2018.
Mm.
Huh,
Good.
well, props, bro.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm coming up on 7 years, and when I tell people I don't drink, people are like touchy. You just like you were saying, like, oh, don't talk about league.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have more of that type of relationship with league than with drinking. So when people ask me like, oh, like, is it cool if we drink around you? I'm like, yeah, dude. It was never for me. Drinking was never like that. It was just one of those things. Is like, wow, I can play better. I feel better. I'm spending less money. I already smoke a bunch, and if I'm gonna have a vice, let's just have one, right? Instead
Yeah.
of a couple or four or
Right.
five or any. You
Yeah.
know, like I know people who any is good for them, and I, I don't want Swiss cheese brain. You know,
Yeah.
I'm from the
Mm.
Northwest. There's a lot of hippies. There's mushrooms grow naturally, bro. You should chill out on those things. You know, like no, I'm serious. Like between friends, between people who use that stuff
Yeah.
recreationally, it's like, yo, bro, like relax. You know, like it's needed to have friends who are like, yo, bro, chill out. So I've always tried to, you know, pace myself. And being
Mm.
around so many musicians, you see a lot of vices on different levels. So it gives you a lot of that perspective for yourself of like, okay, like, and I had that same relationship with coffee in college, where I would just have a pot of coffee on my desk
Wow.
and a jug of water, and like I could just make coffee infinitely. And like I was drinking like 5 pots of coffee a day,
Ooh,
Wow.
pots of coffee,
Wow. Yeah.
a lot.
and I could see my heartbeat in my eyes, and I was like, I need to stop. I'm serious because I was trying to go hard on the engineering and music thing,
Mm.
and stress was just it, it was unsustainable. I quit drinking coffee altogether. Um, I'll drink it here and there. It's not like I have like a weird addiction relationship with it, but like in the morning they're like, "Oh, do you want your cup of coffee?" I'm like, "No, I'm not like that. I'll have coffee if we're at a fancy place and it looks good or something and it's not
Mm.
$10." You know, like it's give me a glass of water, we're cool. Or tea, I'm cool with tea. You know, and in the UK, you know, tea culture is really big. I was like, "Yeah, give me some of your teas." They're like, "How do you like it?" I'm like, "Give it to me exactly the way you like it." And they were like, "Oh, it's weird with this sugar and this." I'm like, "Whatever, man, tastes good to me." You know, I'm
Yeah.
not even
Yeah.
that picky. So
Yeah. The black tea actually has more caffeine, I think, than coffee.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I feel like it. I don't drink tea that often, and I don't know. I see some people who are like, "I'm straight edge," but then you're like, "Yeah, you also drink a ton of caffeine." Like, I don't know. I feel like like having a one cup of coffee in the morning is different than people who are like, I have to chug Red Bulls. Like, whoa, relax. Like, why are you drinking 5 hour energies like constantly? Like, stop it. Those have hundreds of milligrams of caffeine. Like,
Mhm.
chill. You know. But yeah, that's the answer to that long ass answer to that question.
Yeah.
Now I got another question about your songs. Los tenemos rodeadores, right? We
Los
got you
tenemos
surrounded.
rodeados.
Rodeados, sorry, my
Yeah.
Spanish sometimes rodeados. Pero,
Mhm.
we got you surrounded. Can you explain the concept of the song and who are you surrounding?
Yeah. So that song is about the Black Lives Matter protests and my point of view from Eastern Washington. When the Black Lives Matter protests like broke out in Eastern Washington, we didn't really have big Black Lives Matter protests, but we had the
Mm,
opposite. We had all lives matter protests, and we had like local government and local law enforcement participating in these events, and it was really freaky because in Tri-Cities, Washington, during like the peak of the Black Lives Matter protests, there was people camping with like lawn chairs in front of businesses. Like I remember driving by the Toys R Us, and there was 5 dudes with AR-15s at 2 in the morning,
oh,
just watching the store. Bro, no one even went in there during the day. That's why it went out of business. Like, what are you doing? But it was that
uh,
kind of like, we're going to be ready if these infiltrators from Portland or Seattle come to us. It's just like, holy shit. So I was on that side.
oh
Um,
man.
but I I wanted to, what I like about, Spanish is that there's a lot of double meaning, and I feel like I have a better grasp of double meaning. Um, where los tenemos rodeados, we have you surrounded. So like it
Rodeados.
could be both perspectives.
Yeah, I guess that's
But
why I
as
like
I
Spanish. You
develop
get
the lyrics a little more, it shows which one I'm really talking about. You
Mhm.
mhm,
know, um, because it's opiniones diferentes han creado insurgentes en las calles y en sus mentes,
mhm,
right? Like different opinions have created insurgents in the streets and in their minds.
mhm,
That applies to the both sides of the coin there,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And cuántas veces hay que verlo means how many times do we need to
Um,
see this? And as I develop the song, the next verse is what is it? Democracia vuelto rabia, odio legal nunca para, escupiendo en tu cara cuántas veces hay que verlo. It's like democracy has gone rabid. Very clear. Um, escupiendo en tu cara is like they're just spitting in your face. Odio legal nunca para, because I say odio legal because it's hate, legal hate.
People
Racism
hate.
is legal hate. You are allowed to say the N word to people. You're allowed to say all these fucked up slurs. Why? Because we have freedom of speech,
Mhm.
which is legal hate. You can be hateful legally. And I'm not saying that, oh, race, like of course I'm saying like racism is a bad thing, but I'm saying that like it's there because it's legal, because there's no repercussions. And then when I
Mm,
say they're just spitting in your face, is because they're now I'm like kind of insinuating what side I'm really talking about.
Mhm.
And then when you say cuántas veces hay que verlo,
how many
you
times we have
know,
to see it?
and then you get to the core the breakdown of the chorus, and the audio you hear is from a real protest in Portland.
Oh,
So if you listen to that and you hear shh, those are the tear gas canisters. You hear pop, pop, pop. Those are the fucking bullets. And if you listen closely, it goes, please disperse or we'll use live munitions. I used audio of the Portland police threatening to shoot live munitions into the crowd. It's in the song. So if you listen
wow.
back, that's
I
why I'm
gotta
saying
come
Los
back
tenemos
again.
rodeados in Spanish, and then the cop on the is speaking back in English. And the
Mm,
two languages are my way to um, kind of show the two perspectives without being blatant about which perspective.
Mhm.
And Kurt, right now, that's really important. And Los Tenemos Rodeados comes from going to New York and hearing about the Black Lives Matter protests in New York,
mm,
because they would have like the line of the cops, they have the line of the people, but New York is a grid. So if they started going hard, a group of people would go around the block and come around and they would have hundreds of people on both sides, and the NYPD just had to be like, we can't do anything because they're surrounded.
Mhm.
So like the people forced these cops to chill out because there was more of them, and they had them surrounded. Because in New York, all you have to do is go around the block. If the street's blocked, you go around one block. So
Yeah.
that's what that is about.
Oh wow.
That was my
Interesting.
perspective of
Awesome.
the Black Lives Matter protest. And if you listen to the audio, that's a real protest happening. You know, and when
Wow.
we tour it, I like to like right before that song, I'm like, hey, things happened in Portland. Like a lot of the people who are fans of our band got snatched up into these vans. We heard these stories. You know,
Mm.
unmarked vans. Like at least these motherfuckers are ICE instead of just strange people in vans.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying it's any better, but I'm just saying that like there was weird things happening in Portland. And
Man.
we had a guy show up to one of our gigs saying that he had just gotten pepper sprayed by a cop around the corner for just like I don't remember what the issue was, but he'd come in, his eyes were red, and he watched us sing all these political songs. He was like, "I love you guys," and he's been following us since.
Oh
Like
wow. Yeah.
because that's who we play for. That's our audience here in Portland.
Mm. Mm.
So when I tour, I'm like, hey, the rest of the country forgot what they did to Portland, but we're not going to let you forget
Oh,
because
yeah.
that's messed up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because they're just doing this to citizens, and it's happening again right now.
Right.
Sure.
So we can't forget. We can't pretend like, oh, it's over there. It doesn't apply to us. So like every single show that I play not in Portland, I talk about Portland, and I
Mm.
dedicate that song to the people in Portland.
Awesome.
It's a really important
Awesome,
song
man.
to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh wow. Awesome, bro. Now, talking about songs that are important, how about songs that embarrass you? What what song do you secretly love? And but
Uh, f-
embarrassed to admit it. But embarrassed to admit it.
from the EP or just in general?
No, no, just any, just general, any song that you
Songs that I
secretly love, but
enjoy.
yeah, but you're embarrassed to admit it.
I really like old Bad Bunny shit, to be honest.
Okay,
The
okay.
old shit when he was like more when it was like gangsta rap kind of like reggaeton. Now
Uh,
it's not that at all. But like back then it was a little bit it was like trap music, but reggaeton. That stuff still, scratches my brain. I really like baile funk, which is Brazilian like club music.
Mhm.
okay.
Um it's there's a lot of those bands that have like weird samples or it's like really not high quality samples, but it's just the beat is good and just you imagine it just bumping and it's I don't know, it's good for driving. Um, but when I play that music for people, they're like, ugh, I don't know, what the
I
hell?
gotta check that out, man.
Yeah,
Send me a
like
link.
yeah, if I I found that YouTube channel through there's just a random article I found
Uh,
about like the three top or the five top YouTube channels or some shit like that. And this one came up. It's called Conzilla, Kondzilla, and it's this channel that just produces all these baile funk artists. Then they make a music video, get tons of hits. Then they take that money, make another video, and they keep doing it over and over and over. And I think the top ones have a couple billion listens, and maybe
Oh,
the
wow.
top like 100 songs have like hundreds of millions of listens. So
oh,
like these are like like remember we're talking about the bigger fish.
Mhm.
These are some big ocean fish. You know what I mean?
oh, really?
But if you watch
Wow.
the videos, it's the corniest shit. But they have listeners in the billions and hundreds of millions. So, it's one of those things where it's like when I travel and I see weird foods being eaten, I'm like, well, if that guy's eating it, I'm down.
Yeah.
Clearly someone likes it. I'm gonna see if I like it. That's
Mhm.
how I am with
That's right.
music. That's why I like listening to
Nice.
Japanese bands. I don't understand shit. But but I'm listening to the thing as a whole as.
Mhm.
You like baby metal?
They're not really my thing. Um, I don't dislike them. I know some people who dislike them. I don't dislike them. I
But
think it's a cool
they're all
concept.
right. Yeah.
I think the concept of like mixing that like K-pop pop star vibe with like a metal band is really cool.
The metal
Uh,
band is badass though in the background, man. Oh my God.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I mean,
So I got two. Oh.
I mean, how much different is Baby Metal from like Ghost, where like it's like an anonymous band and then this weird frontman? Like it's
Yeah.
they're similar, but yeah,
So I got two last questions.
sure.
Now, looking back, what's one thing you wish you known when you started playing ska?
Hmm. Um, as much as I wish I knew about more bands when I first
Mhm.
started playing, I kind of like that I didn't because it pushed my path in a unique way. Like if I had
Mhm.
like the fact that I knew about Inspector 15 years before I ever heard about Real Big Fish really changed the way I look at ska, you know? And like people will be like, "Oh, Inspector's a pop band." It's like, "Yeah, but people say that about Sublime. People talk shit about Sublime, but we all listened to hella Sublime. We all
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Don't act like you didn't. You know, like it's okay. You know,
Yeah.
it's don't feel weird about it. No one's gonna make
Yeah.
fun of you, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish I had known more bands, but then, you know, I'm kind of torn on it. But then I wish I had known more about the relationship between jazz music and ska music.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that much about traditional ska when I first started. Like, obviously, I have
Uh-huh.
my streetlight flag, and I think I got that streetlight flag at one of the first shows I ever saw them. And
Hmm.
streetlight is not anything like the Scatolites, you know?
Yeah.
It's funny seeing people online arguing about streetlight, but it's like they got me into playing in real ska bands, so they have their purpose, right?
Right.
They
They
bring
do.
people in.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, probably those
Yeah.
two things. Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Now, finally, picture the Ska History Hour viewers discovering Los Mal Hablados for the first time. I know you only have four songs on Spotify, but which track should they queue up and why?
Um, if you want a ska song, I really like I really like Los Tenemos Rodeados because it has that like I said that audio from that protest where we when we play live we use that track like and we play it live with a patch and I feel like not a lot of ska bands do stuff like that. So it's our take of evolving the sound a little bit. You know, Guilty has a couple breakdowns in it that most ska songs don't have breakdowns. They have catchy sing-along choruses, you know, or a really catchy horn line. We wanted to do more of a breakdown, you know, more of a metal inspired thing. But if you don't want to, you know, if you want something different, Sismo 9.5 is our um, instrumental. It doesn't really have any ska in it. It's just heavy instrumental. Because you a lot of people listen to heavy music and always has some sort of lyrics or screaming or something on it. And I was thinking like, what if it was just horns? You know, so that was kind of our experimental thing. And we have a couple more songs coming that are in that same theme. So Sismo's Earthquake. If you listen, you'll hear the rumbling in the beginning, which we also do live. And that's why there's all these kind of chromatic falls because it kind of symbolizes like a huge 9.5 magnitude earthquake just tearing everything apart. And then it even gets quiet and you hear like shh. So it signifies like, oh, that's it. And then it comes back, you know, the aftershocks, you know, trying to use natural disasters as inspiration for instrumental songs. So we have Ojo de la
Mhm.
Tormenta. You know, this is the first time I'm mentioning it. We have Ojo de la
Oh,
Tormenta, which is the
over
eye
the
of the
winter.
storm.
Yeah.
We have another one that is in that same kind of vein where we're using kind of this theme of natural disasters to do these instrumentals because what is more intense than something that none of us can control?
Mother Nature's. Yeah.
So yeah,
Awesome.
Gizmo.
Awesome, bro. Cool. Cool. Well, thanks, man.
Now, where can we find your music, both physical and digital?
Yeah, so digitally, we are up on all streaming platforms. The Live at Bridge sessions is on like Spotify and all audio, but the thing about that is the recordings on that EP are from our live session on Bridge sessions. So those are, if you want to watch us playing that album live on video, it's on YouTube.
Okay.
Same with our Supernova set with some of the new songs. But
Mhm.
then for physical, everything is available through the Bandcamp, or obviously we're a small band, so we can still say DM us if you'd like.
Mhm.
Um, some bands it's not sustainable to do it through DMs, but we totally are, and we're happy. Anyone who wants to buy a shirt and help put a couple bucks in the gas tank, we're always super grateful. So available on Bandcamp. So
And those DMs are both on Facebook and Instagram to
yeah, and
contact
on
you guys
TikTok. I'm
and TikTok.
I'm slightly old enough to hate TikTok, but we try it out here.
I'm
But
not a TikTok guy. Jose's the TikTok guy. He does all that.
it's it's one of those things that like you either adapt to it or don't. And if the app or whatever is if the platform is worth it, there's no way to really control it. Like how many people thought Facebook and Instagram weren't going to stick around, and look at where we're
Mhm.
at. So it's just, I don't know. It's
I
just
think
with
it's
all
like
technology.
for me it's like a kid thing, and I think it's because when my kids were younger, that before it was TikTok, it was called Musically. And they used to have just the little kids do all their little dances and all this stuff, and I just thought it was too hokey. Then it turns into TikTok, and I'm thinking it's the same damn thing. But then now I see a lot of people are on it, and they're just addicted to it. They're just this, and this, and it's like all day long.
Yeah.
And
The
so
good thing
that's not
about it
something for me.
is that it does have a better algorithm. So if, say,
Mhm.
you're a ska band, other people who are there looking at ska content are gonna see your stuff very quickly.
Yeah.
Where on other social medias, not so much.
Yeah, that's why I
Ooh,
like TikTok. The
Yeah.
algorithm.
okay.
I see a bunch of ska stuff now.
The
Like when I
algorithm
first
is
started.
is
Yeah,
exponentially better, and
it is.
See,
um
I can't get on TikTok now because I swore up and down that it's the devil's app to everybody that I know. So if I were to do it, I'm contradicting myself.
yeah. But
Just
then but
feedback
then
off
there's
me,
the
man.
next
That's all
thing.
right.
There's AI, there's all these different
Yeah,
things,
yeah,
and
true,
like there's
true.
conversations in the ska scene about like using AI for art, but like if you're planning a tour and you're like, hey ChatGPT, what are live music venues in Youngstown, Ohio? Like that's
Yeah,
something that we didn't have access to before.
uh-huh.
You'd have to Google live music venues and then do like sorting and all this stuff.
Let's let's
Woo.
Excuse me.
first on
Now,
But
what does the
yeah.
future hold for Los Mal Hablados? You spoke about some new material. Besides some of the shows, what do we have to look forward to?
Yeah, we've been performing the four songs from the EP, three new songs, and then we have three newer songs that we've never performed in the bank. And we're working hard to try to figure out a way to get the album all recorded, all above board and smooth, just because we've had some experiences where we've had a little bit of a challenge in that kind of field. So we're just working through those moments, and just getting it recorded. We have that tour in July with Mephistopheles on the West Coast. We're really excited for that. I hope to see you guys on that tour. And then in October we have those shows with Cherry Pop and Daddies.
Mhm.
And between those two tours, I'm going to be doing a bunch of other stuff. Not a bunch. Like I'll be at Supernova. I'll be in New York
okay.
again in August. Um, but yeah, just working on that, working on writing some more, working on getting. Like I said, we played just a front porch July 2022. It's been 3 years now, almost,
Mhm.
and we never thought that we would be playing festivals and all this stuff. So it's we're going through definitely a band puberty where it's things are changing and the changes are good and natural. It's okay.
What a great way to describe that.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's yeah, I mean I can't find another way to describe it. It's natural, it's normal.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna see you at the I think it's July 25th, Long Beach, California show.
Hell yeah.
We're actually I think we're interviewing everybody from that show. We just got to get Chencha to go ahead and get them.
Well, let me
Uh,
know and I can pass you the contact. So
Por favor.
Better. Okay. So we'll do that one, and then we have everybody from that show, but we'll definitely see you there um, at that show. I don't know if you know a band called the Goodwin Club. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
Uh, I was just talking to the booker for that show, and he was telling me about them. Said it's kind of like a super group of LA cats.
You're talking to Andy.
Yes.
Andy George, yeah. So Andy put out the Soda album by them, which is their older stuff. I manage the band and do their booking now. And you and I
Nice.
spoke about we were trying to get them on some of the MEF dates, but we couldn't.
Yeah.
Other than that one. So yeah, we're really looking forward to the show, meeting all the bands that we've interviewed and stuff like that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that'd be cool. Maybe try to get down to the San Diego one with Jake over at the holding company.
Yeah.
Now, any last words that I'm sorry, yeah, any last words that you have for our viewers out there and your fans?
Um, yeah, I mean, I'd like to leave it with, we're a new band. It's it's been a crazy adventure with what we've been doing, and I just want to be thankful to everyone that's been along for the ride, whether they found out about us last week or at the first show.
Mhm.
Thank you guys. This was always a dream of mine to do some sort of Latin ska core. It was always a dream of mine to take a band that I wrote lyrics for, and I could speak my mind and take it to Mexico. And it's one of those things where you start checking things off your bucket list. You got to start writing some new ones, right? Like
Yeah.
eventually, like I said, I'm very blessed to play the music I like, and I want to thank everyone who supported Los Mal Hablados from the beginning to now and in the future. It means a lot, and it does mean a lot that I was just with my best friend 2 seconds ago, which was 10, 15 years ago. Man, we're gonna start this band, man. Like I was it definitely was one of those things, and I'm grateful for it being real and everyone who's helped. So yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, Eric, we really appreciate the time you took to share your stories with us. It was amazing. It's been a great interview. Um, we're gonna see you soon. We're gonna see you next month. Hold on real quick. We're gonna talk to you a little bit right after. All right?
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no
Thank
problem.
you. Hello, Skankers. Jose here, aka Skanking Force. Would you like to win a free Ska Box? It's as easy as following Ska Box Rocks and Sniff Dog Records on Instagram and Facebook. And subscribe to Ska History Hour on YouTube and comment Ska Box Rocks in any video to enter. Good luck!